Good evening, everyone. I am calling to order the Pike City Council meeting of Wednesday, August 19th, 2026. Please call the roll.
Mr. Schmidt. Here. Ms. Quartz. Mr. Buckley. Here. Ms. Bowden. Here. Mr. Lambert.
Here.
Mr. Gentleman. Colonel Lewis.
We have a fairly lengthy agenda tonight. Our first matter would be the pledge of allegiance. Please join us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
We invite any audience comments. This time, if there are any.
You know, I want to go. Our speaker isn't here yet, so.
Please say your name for Shailene.
Mitch Ferguson, 29200 Richfield Road. I just want to thank the service department, the city, Benson, regional staff.
Thank you.
I'll start. Okay. Thank you, sir. I'm Rebecca Boyle. I'm on the school board.
That's why you all live.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse the location.
Yes. So we have Julie Lawrence coming in, and I don't know if she will be here. She's babysitting the staff, so she's on the way. But I don't want to come up the meeting, so I'll be passed out information for you to look at. And I believe she has some written remarks, so maybe she can give those to you. She's right here. But I would like you to take a look at the information that they've compiled, and we would encourage or support for the levy. There's a lot of information on that PowerPoint, and questions will be submitted throughout the time. Any questions, please let us know. And we'll be here at some point. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
We will move on to reports from committees and department heads. First, the committees.
So I'm going to read out the Teachers Committee, which so to recap, we formed this committee earlier this year to be a body strategic president inputs, synthesize the ideas, and if they have merit, present them to council over here, and we'll keep that on the agenda. Okay, so we've been meeting since May, 4 or 5 meetings since then. It took a lot of forming and moving kind of stages. Just want to give a quick snapshot of what we're about, what makes we get done. So again, our whole goal is to listen to the residents. It's a resident-focused committee. It's our job to synthesize these ideas and then how we want to approach council as certain topics. It's just a snapshot of what we've been hearing from the county survey in 2023, individual resident ideas, straw polls, just name it. And the common theme, honestly, has been talk about pots. You see these individual ideas around dog park, pickleball, splash pad, right? The company just can reduce and enhance outdoor spaces and make them more attractive for the community experience. Today, just want to call us out. The ones you see in bold across the slide, those are the ones our committee has said. One of us on the committee, there's 5 members, wants to research some more and then present it to this audience. So, I guess to summarize, we've got quite a few topics here. They vary from capital intensive projects, policy changes, to more communications, right? Pass on those committees. We welcome all ideas. We're looking for ways to actually garner more ideas from the residents. So if you have ideas, please I think I work on concept. I'm sorry. I will. I'm going to send this over email. I will. Yeah, I will send it. Okay. One last thing here. We are doing some level of prioritization, whether it's going to cost a lot of money, cost a lot of effort, risk benefit. All right, so this is the version 1 stab. All those ideas you saw, where they can fit. You don't want to just bomb it out with ideas. Figure out, hey guys, whatever the fence, figure it out. On the left is benefits, perceived benefits for residents. Bottom is. So we'll take an example, right? Either F or not. The way in the top right, we don't have to run this graph right now. Is the potential community center idea, standalone facility, obviously there's I will pause there. Actually, it's later in the stuff. That's the slides, but we have some inspiration. Thank you.
All right, road and infrastructure committee met on Monday at 08 here. We had full attendance and some good participation. We did a city hall renovation discussion. That took about half our time. I won't talk about that at all. We're here all morning tonight with an update. We had a streetlight discussion, and that kind of came about after the fatal mishap we had a couple of weeks ago. And we kind of said, okay, was there enough lighting for what happened for when they pulled over? I don't know. And then we go, well, how are streetlights done in the city? Is it willy-nilly that they just happen? And we came up with, it's happened a number of ways. The CBI owns the lights, and if we want more lights, that number would have been. So what we're going to do, the engineer has a good handle on it, the service department, police department all have a good handle on it, but the task is the police department is now, chief put out an email to his whole team and said, hey, especially night shift, if you're going around and you see primarily intersections that look semi-dangerous because it's not lit enough, or a place that we might want to put another street light, send it in to me. So he's going to compile that, and then we'll bring it to discussion to our next meeting. And it's really an open-ended topic for us, and just trying to garner some information and see where we're at. So there's lots of different people who want more street lights and people who want less street lights. So we're going to come up with the way ahead with really the help of the police department, our safety eyes and ears out there, telling us where they think we can do more street lights. Then we talked about the 2026 projects update. I will not steal Don's thunder on that. So when we go to department heads, I'll let him do that because there is a lot going on with me and the service department, and the team are very, very busy. Had a discussion on the 2027 trails effort and what we're going to do going forward. Really very preliminary. Our takeaway from that is we're going to add a couple more to what we discussed the other at the meeting. And then in October, we'll really final up our 2027 plan so that we can bring it to the council to include into the 2027 budget. We're trying to get ahead of the cycle. Then we had a discussion on the Cuyahoga County 2028 road project. So if you saw Cleveland.com about 2 weeks ago, there was an article about all the local road projects that are being funded by the county. And Lyndhurst was in there with Cedar Road from Landerwood to Brainerd. And we said, oh, what happened here? Because we're planning in 2028-ish to do a huge project, a full mill grind rebuild with Lyndhurst, Mayfield Heights, and Pike, all the way from Somme to 271 with the county and Northeast Ohio Regional. NOACA, yeah, those guys, NOACA and the county kind of oversight of that project. So we were kind of caught off guard, and Don and the mayor both talked to the county executive. But that is not the full rebuild. It's not the full rebuild project. So we're good. We got a little nervous about that, but we're still on track. And Don and the mayor have to lead the work through NOACA and the county to partner up with those cities. So still hoping for a 2028 full rebuild, even though this year we're spending about $350,000 on the Cedar Road to do massive point repairs, not just pothole repairs. And that'll start. Donald tells me they're going to start with our next meeting. We're going to skip September since things are very, very busy, and I will not be here a good portion of the month. I'll be overseas. So October 19th will be our next meeting, and I asked folks to get agenda items to me by October 14th. A couple things we're definitely going to do. We really want to do some work on Lander Circle and help that out. So there's some stuff going on with the engineer and the mayor. Got some things going with that. We finalize our 2027 projects list. And on the other, by the way, a discussion item that came up that should be good news for people is everybody's been talking to us about the crosswalk crossing South Woodland and Old Brainerd. So we asked the other day that for people walking down Old Brainerd to get to the trails, we asked the service department, can we just get that on this year and get it done? And they're going to take care of it and get it done. So a lot of people have been talking about that for a long time. So we're going to get a crosswalk in hopefully before our next road infrastructure meeting. So that's the good news that came up during. Okay. Yes, sir. Can you see later, sir? Yes. Yep, the big land, sure.
Did we put on the crosswalks?
Yeah.
I know last year, we thought we were going to do a crosswalk, Spring Lakes, trying to go across. Is that still in works? Or same as some,
As we have discussed, representatives
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other committees, city connections, we all see them?
We met on the third, and the only variance was follow-up previous month, precinct register variance and site setback variance, which were granted. This is back to we started. We also discussed a little bit of the garage ordinance that had come up in council something like this 6 months ago or so. The 1,000 square foot cap and sort of potential changes to that, and it ended up kind of going into much bigger conversation about what we want our lots to look like in general. So I think that this is it's just a really important topic, especially when we're looking at some of these houses coming in. They're huge. You know, Don brought up some really great points about the house, and then the patio, and then they want further areas for the garage, and this and that. And so you're just taking a much more holistic look at this, which I think is really the smart way to approach it. So I think that that'll be a task given to George, I guess, to sort of bring us some ideas, just think about it.
Yes. Thank you very much. And just to touch on one aspect of that, so the ordinance that here for first reading, we refer to the planning commission. Do the names for now? Are there any suggestions or recommendations? Thank you, sir. I believe that concludes it. I see that we're going to go a little out of order and respecting our school board members who are here tonight. And I see presenter is able to overcome the babysitting issues and is now with us. So we are going to do the unordinary and flip back into.
Much appreciated. I am Julie Lawrence. I am a parent at Orange. I am also the Eastern's treasurer, so I'm heavily invested into the community. Sorry, I have an upcoming cleaning driver and he needed a ride to clean tonight, so it's fun. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I am here as a proud parent and a community member to express my support for the upcoming school district levy. I have 3 children who attend our schools, 11th grade, 8th grade, and 5th grade. I've had the privilege of seeing firsthand the impact our schools have on our children and our community. Our schools are more than just buildings where our kids attend classes. They are places where our children learn, grow, build relationships, discover their strengths, and prepare for their futures. One of the reasons this levy is particularly important to my family is special education. I have a child with Down syndrome, and I know how important it is to have access to dedicated special education, teachers, support, resources, instruction that meet all children where they are and help them reach their full potential. These programs are not extras. They are an essential part of providing quality education to every child in our district. At the same time, my boys are involved in many of the sports and activities our district offers. And those programs are an important part of their education and development as well. They teach teamwork, discipline, responsibility, perseverance, and school pride. I want to make sure we continue to provide those opportunities for the next generation of students. But also, I'd like to speak to our community who don't have children in our schools. A strong school district benefits all of us. Quality schools help make a community a place where families want to move, where businesses want to invest, and where people want to put down their roots. They contribute to property value, community pride, and the overall quality of life in our neighborhoods. Even if you don't have children walking through our doors, you benefit from having a strong, successful school district in the community. Supporting this levy is about investing more than just our children. It's about investing in the future of our entire community. I believe we have a responsibility to make sure our schools remain a place where every student, including students with special needs, has the opportunity to succeed, where our kids can participate in athletics and activities, and where our community continues to be a place where people are proud to call home. I encourage our community to support this levy and continue investing in the future of our schools and our community. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. We will return then to our agenda. It is a great pleasure that first I welcome to our meeting tonight our staff.
The department heads. We have department heads.
Oh, department heads. Thank you, Councilman. I was too excited.
Don's got a lot.
Guys,
Well, the doctor needs to.
I was trying to-
Okay.
But I guess we
Yeah,
should
he
say
needs to-
that.
the doctor
We
needs
could,
to-
we could do that next and come back.
The doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get them
All right.
done, moved out, and then we'll go back. I think it's a
Alright.
good suggestion. So it's good to be nimble with our agenda when we have. First, I do want to take a moment and welcome our first responder employees who are generally not with us at these meetings. We have a great representation of our police department, of our fire department, And we really appreciate all you gentlemen being here with us tonight for a special occasion where we are going to witness the commendation of Police Sergeant Eric Kruger and Police Officer Joseph Popoff from the Cleveland Clinic Hillcrest Hospital EMS medical emergency team and staff. I will let them take the lead in describing what went on. We are joined by Dr. Michael Fullenbaum, who is the medical director for our fire paramedic EMS squad. And for those who don't know, our squad trains frequently throughout any month, maybe 3 times a month even, at least on average, maybe more sometimes. And that is under the supervision and direction of Dr. Fullenbaum. And I welcome Dr. Fullenbaum now to introduce her colleagues, and we can proceed with the ceremony.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, distinguished guests and citizens. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this evening. My name is Jim McGrath. I'm one of the EMS coordinators at Hillcrest Hospital, Cleveland Clinic. I'm here with Joe McAuliffe, who is my counterpart there as well. Tonight we are here to recognize 2 of the police officers that responded to a critical call just 1 month ago that involved their actions resulted in the efforts of life-saving intervention. So just a quick synopsis of what happened here. On July 18th, 2026, at approximately 2:45 in the morning, Pepper Pike police officers Sergeant Eric Kruger and Officer Joe Popoff responded to an auto accident with multiple vehicles involved. Upon their arrival, they found a horrific scene. 2 patients were trapped in between 2 vehicles. Officers Kruger and Popoff recognized that one of the patients was bleeding severely from her leg. The officers acted quickly to apply tourniquets to the affected leg, immediately stopping the bleeding, thus stabilizing the patient until EMS arrived. Their rapid thinking and subsequent actions were paramount to saving this patient's life. For their outstanding clinical judgment, technical proficiency, and unwavering dedication to saving lives, we proudly present the Cleveland Clinic Trauma Care Challenge Coin for excellence and professional standards to your Pepper Pike police officers, Sergeant Eric Kruger and Patrolman Joe Popoff. Gentlemen. So it should go without, I'd be remiss if I didn't also recognize the efforts for Fire Chief Frazier and his crew that transported this patient to Hillcrest. The patient has survived. She has gone on to therapy and physical therapy, and none of that would have been possible first of all without these 2 guys and their quick actions of applying that tourniquet, as well as what EMS did to further treatment to get that patient to the hospital and definitive care. So thank you for your time. Congratulations.
So the council appreciates it in full flavor. And Chief Frazier stepped out for a moment. He can describe it. See what down the hall with them. This was an extraordinary event, and as the EMS staff noted, our fire crew obviously was very involved in the success of this conclusion of what occurred. By this operation, our crews respond, our EMS crews responds typically within about 4+ minutes to any place in Pepper Pike as quickly as it can, 4 to 5 minutes. We had these officers that were rolling out on patrol evening of this accident. So their ability to arrive at the scene was almost immediate. They got, they beat the EMS group, and they came upon just a horrendous scene. And in just making a survey of the what was occurring there, you have to imagine your head. It's pitch black. It's 2:30 in the morning. And they arrive at the scene. And they have unhurt patients, but they don't know they're unhurt, who are also involved in the accident. Who are sitting down on the lawn, extremely upset because they've been witnessing what was going on there. And they have to touch base with them. They have to spin off from that and then speak to, evaluate the scene. And they were each doing their own task. Unfortunately, Sergeant Kruger, as soon as he came upon this very injured lady lying behind this vehicle, he recognized that she was in desperate shape and had already suffered enormous trauma, and just made an immediate judgment that he had to get a tourniquet on the lower extremity, where she was going to bleed out right there in the street. And so he did it. And it was an instantaneous, skilled and professional reaction that he had. And but for that reaction, that woman would not have survived. And what it did was set up this lady in a situation where, when our EMS crew then rolled in, they could immediately gather her up, put her in the squad, and get her over to Hillcrest. And the staff then related that she was survived and was period of recovery, although her trauma remains very significant and she'll bear the consequences. The other side of this is that the driver has been charged with aggravated vehicular homicide. There was a fatality in this accident, and that is going to proceed through the courts. And that is why the staff at Hillcrest recognized that there are lots of accidents that our crews engage in, our EMS crews engage in life-saving efforts many times, perhaps in a single week. It's unusual for our police officers that have to come across such a scene and react in the way that they did. That's what made this different, special, for that commended the recognition that they received tonight. And it's not to diminish what our EMS crews do, not routinely but frequently. But it was extraordinary that our police officers could be thrown into this situation, and their response was extraordinary and life-saving. So that is why you've witnessed the ceremony for tonight. All right, good. Chief, you have anything more?
That was excellent. Just in watching the video, it was hard to tell what was going on. It was so dark. There was so much debris. But they were looking under cars. They were, getting between cars. He ripped his pants, just getting in there well enough to put these on. And Joe was a great help. So Chief Frazier, I was already impressed, but he made a great point to me. He said the fact that once they were both there on scene together, that the decision was made within a minute and a half. He said that's outstanding, even for somebody that does this on a regular basis. He's like, that's by far better than most people would react and get that done. So just wanted to add that, and I was glad Chief Frazier educated me on that a little bit as well.
And I want to make it, one reason that the officers involved were able to react. Sergeant Kruger is a veteran and had probably trained for quite a while in the military. And the application of tourniquets and things like that. So he was familiar with a trigger mechanism within himself to observe and react to the scene as to what was happening. So not that we have to only hire military veterans, but we certainly benefit, it seems, for the situations when we have hired some military veterans. So we thank him and Officer Popoff for their great efforts that night. All right, we are now going to have a presentation of the City Hall complex renovation.
Back to the department heads.
Oh, we didn't do the department heads. Do I have to do them, Councilman? Really? Do I have to do it? All right. Do you have anything to report, Mr. Rankator?
We are done with the June and July financial reports, so those were sent out to everybody and we'll go over those next week before the council meeting.
Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan?
Our service garage, the fence has been completed along the drop-off area, so police and fire during the weekends or evening crews no longer have to worry about pulling our gates back out of the parking lot when the winds blow them out there. The dilapidated wood. It is a chain link fence on a cantilever gate. It's a 35-foot gate that just one person can open on rollers, and it's much needed, but it's really unfortunate.
Yes, we do. And just let me add now, since we're talking about the service department, the fantastic job that the service department performed throughout this month. And we had at least we had several very large events, and the crew just responded magnificently. And I have plenty of confidence during any one of these events about the jobs that we do. So please extend that. Also, our crews have cleared the area at the back of the parking lot where the Rust Belt Riders recycling canisters. I spoke with Zoe today from there and coordinating their drop-off and send out some information during the initiation of that program, what it means. Since I'm talking about take privilege. We finished negotiating the contract, entered into it. We were successful in getting a give back to our community, where the residents who participate in the program will be able to get some compost back to them instead of simply dropping off for the benefit of the company that's collecting it. So that was important. I think that was accomplished. There was some give back. It's not yards and yards of material, but there's something coming back to our residents. So I think that was important.
Yeah, getting a deal that someone pays for your own raw materials is a pretty sweet deal. So I'm glad to see that you're getting something there. Thank you.
Mr. Shee, you seem to have a lot to talk about.
Yes, I'm going to try to make it brief. Just a few updates. You may have noticed there's some flagging going on for trails. Start on Brainerd and then go up to Fairmount. They will be under full construction as of Monday next week. They're doing some preliminary stuff for that layout work. So there'll be vehicles parked along the edge because they're doing the project. Shouldn't be a big interruption. They'll maintain two-way traffic. We do have Trillium Trail. The water line work is complete. They had a couple minor things that they're doing still with the water line, and they're doing some restoration work this week. We're going to be paving that street in a few weeks. We also just mentioned Rachel is maintaining the website, the City Hall website for any construction activities, so you can get a brief synopsis of what's going on. We got funding from Regional Sewer District for the Mander Pump Station project. Through the SAIP program, it was $862,500. Got money to be this June. Also got a small grant, but it's for some stormwater work that we need to do. There's a head wall on phase 1 that needs attention. We got a grant from Regional Sewer District. Not a grant, but it's a community cost share program for $79,000 today. Paving, we are going to be working on Cedar hopefully before the end of the month, and certainly in September when we fulfill patchwork on Cedar and a couple other streets, Pine Tree, a couple other things. So
I would simply add, it was brought up in Richard's comment, we finished installing the first round of benches on phase 1 of the Gates Post path. There were actually many more benches to go. The benches that went in this round are armless. They're made out of iPay wood, ePay wood, and extraordinarily sturdy, and they're handsome. They were a bench that was identified by Mr. Advent. He used to work here, and he saw this bench in a national cemetery. I thought it looked really nice, and we agree it does. It comes with an armless and an armed version. These armless versions, I'm looking at the first round of it because it allows people to sit off the end of it, not obstructed with an arm. See how that works out. And we're also going, but there are many more benches to get, same style, simply with an arm on the end. So we'll probably be looking at some of those also to obtain. We also putting in a bench at the end of Windy Hill, the cul-de-sac there. Some residents on that street have requested for a bench in their cul-de-sac. So we have obtained that bench and proceeding with that. We are going to move ahead with the ability of residents to purchase a bench. They are not inexpensive, and we can sell the benches that we already have too, and the resident then to acquire a dedication plaque on that bench. And so we already have our first commitment for one. Mr. and Mrs. Barsavich already purchased one, and I've had several other residents already express to me that they want to purchase them also.
How much are they?
I left my sheet, I apologize, sitting in my office. It was around $1,500 for a bench? It's about $1,500. And they're very nice. They're forever benches.
Is this
Buy
just for
early and
the,
often.
is this just for the boulevard or?
No. Right now we are establishing them on the boulevard, but ultimately I'd like to see benches in Centennial Park. I want to see, we're going to replace some of those benches that are up in Morgan Park. We have a lot of places in our public spaces that would benefit by a public bench.
But not the trails.
I don't know. That's something I think we need to consider. They're not the first off, but I think there are some places on the trails where it would they'd work out very nicely. I know we have one resident who put a bench out on her own.
If one purchases the bench, can they request a location for that bench? Can you give that some thought?
I'll give that some thought.
You should also.
Perhaps, yeah, if it fits into the general program where
Yeah.
we know we're putting benches, I don't see why not.
Should, to the extent the bench is already in place,
Yes.
and they want to dedicate the bench, they should have the same option. No? Pete, you have a bench in place you already installed that has no dedication.
They can buy this bench.
Buy one that's already installed.
Yes.
Yes, just make sure they know if there's no plaque on it, it's available for
Yes.
purchase.
Yes.
You're selling naming rights.
Purchase and plaque.
You're selling a naming right, that is the same cost as buying the bench.
Exactly.
Does the name, like, that goes on the bench itself?
Yes, there's a, I don't know if it's made out of brass or some, whatever metal-like material. Do you know what the plaques are made of? I'm sorry, what?
Brass or
Brass or
bronze?
bronze usually.
Brass or bronze. And we've elected that whatever plaques we're mounting, they're gonna be surface mounted. To route it out and inland became very, very complicated. So instead of being bolted into the back of the bench.
You screw it up.
Yeah.
You screw it up.
Mayor, two more things.
Yes, sir.
We do have two more trail sections that we're gonna be opening bids on Friday for. So it's, we'll hopefully be bringing back to council with two things to vote on for the 2 pieces of trail this year. And we also, Shaker 2A, which is Forest Edward, Chad and Brewster. Contractor is finalizing all of the restoration, lawns, drive aprons, all that stuff. They should be paving finally.
And one of the things that you're sending out to bid is for the remainder of the hardscape of Gates Mills Phase 2, which is the mounding, the stonework, things like that. It'll be very similar in nature and design as what the first phase was. It's just
I'm sorry, what are we likely to have to vote on at the next meeting?
The two, hopefully two trail contracts. So there's the Brainerd North between Fairmount and Cedar, and then there's a portion on Cedar that starts by the east entrance of the Lux and goes up to Lander and then down to First.
Okay.
Yes, can you have whoever be the right person, take a look at the landscaping along the south of the Moon Trail, because grass, foot on either side is, it's all nice. And that's what I found it to be a little bit more, it's not. So,
Is it a tree lawn?
I know it's been very dry, both sides. Particularly on the side and the tree lines.
They were reseeding even the shaker train earlier this summer. I saw there was areas that had browned out.
Yeah.
They had to come back and
It's very obvious, you know, where the brown is. It's where they seeded last year.
Well, thanks for pointing out. They'll catch it. Anything else, Don? You done? All right. We have with us this evening Paul Deutsch of Bylaski, who is here for a presentation of the City Hall complex renovation. Colonel Rice alluded to be presented at the infrastructure meeting. This is a bit of a more protracted presentation. No bells and whistles. That is the Bruce Acres ceremonial current kind of point.
Was this left behind?
Yes.
That's on. So you can see. Hey, good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul Deutsch with Bylaski Architects, and I've been working with the city for over a decade now on many projects. And I'm also joined by my associate, Jonathan Holland, who's a project architect who's been working with me on this master plan and this design project to get us to this point. So just as a quick, back up to where we started, just to remind everybody, we were first asked to perform a needs analysis for your entire municipal campus. And during that process, we met with all of your department heads, many councilmen, the mayor, of course, and a lot of other key staff, and did a full programming exercise of what were the needs of each department, what are your space needs, what are your needs on the site, and including, and you mentioned Councilman Modi before about the community center. We even put out a survey asking for people's needs for if we did a community room or community center, what specifically, how would that be used, what kinds of events, when would those happen, so that we could take all of that information into account. And then from that, we created a master plan that showed just very high level how using your existing facilities that you have now, and in this case, you'll see in City Hall, in addition to City Hall, how we can meet all those needs on this campus. And so once that was completed, then we were engaged to do the schematic design of implementing that master plan. So what we're going to present tonight is that schematic design. We've also had a cost estimate put together so that we can tell you what the budget would be to do all of this. And we'll get to this later, but we also broke the budget down by department so that we could see, in case there wasn't funds to do everything, how we can sort of triage that and prioritize what work was the most necessary and the most advantageous to the needs of the city. Excuse me. So we're going to start with the site plan, and right now, so just for orientation's sake, that's actually the Brainerd Circle, Shaker Boulevard, as everyone recognizes. And right now, you have only two entrances to this site. You have the entrance over here that's really for official use only for emergency vehicles, and then the main entrance off of Shaker. And one of the things that we learned from all of these conversations was how difficult the site circulation is here, and frankly, how dangerous it is. You have service vehicles, police cars, sometimes fire trucks going this way, and all of your traffic comes in this way. There's a lot of conflict at this intersection. The statement was, "I can't believe we haven't had an accident yet. It's only a matter of time." And so, as we really studied the site and understood what we had to work with, which includes this lot next to this municipal campus that was purchased. I don't frankly remember how long ago, where a house was torn down here. We came up with the idea of let's create a whole new drive here that's really mainly for municipal use, and that takes all of the pressure off of this intersection. So when visitors are coming to City Hall, they're coming in here mostly parking in this lot, and we'll talk about this lot a little bit more in a minute, which is, as you can see right now, it's just this kind of relentless sea of asphalt. It's very hard to navigate, and it's really not safe, and it's not ideal for, where do people park and want to use the park? Where do service department employees park? And there's even sometimes, construction equipment sitting in these parking spaces, for lack of a better place to put it. So as we thought more and more about this drive, it occurred to us that on this lot, we can create a new parking lot here where the service department employees and the police officers can park their personal vehicles during the day to take some of the pressure off of this lot. And so that opens up more parking for the public. It makes and for the park. And we're also talking about adding some islands and landscaping to that lot to soften it up, but more importantly, to make it much clearer to identify where the circulation is and how it works, and to make that much safer. Right now, there's a fuel farm that sits here that we want to relocate over here, so we don't have the conflict of all those vehicles and the smell, and it's frankly unsightly. And we also have the recycling area in here right now, which requires residents to come all the way back into here and again create the conflicts with vehicles coming in and out of the service garage. So we're talking about maybe moving that over here so that the resident can come in here, drop off, go through the lot, and go straight out and avoid that conflict also. And so, this is still the schematic design. We have, a ways to go to really vet out all of these ideas and come up with what the final approach would be. The master plan also accommodates and we'll get into this in a lot more detail in a minute, in addition to City Hall, and we'll go into what we think the need for that is. And also two potential additions to the service building. And those are really more about storage of vehicles and equipment, and, you know, with the idea of, you know, the more that stuff sits outside, the more maintenance it requires, and it shortens the lifespan of that equipment. And the same thing goes for the police right now. Police cars are lined up along the back of the building, and they're sitting out in the sun, they're sitting out in the snow and the rain, and they have to keep them running all the time when they're here, especially in the winter. They have to be warm, they have to get in the car and go. So we're proposing a shelter for them to park under, basically a carport. And this plan is currently showing it here, but further conversations we've had with Chief Dietz leads us to really want to put this right in the back of the building so that they can get up and go. So again, as I mentioned, this is schematic design. There's still more to do.
And just as importantly as the shelter for that, there'll be shore power hookups, so the police vehicles don't have to stay running. They'll be hooked up to power, so there'll be the computers, the whole system will be powered up, and that will save the motors. We've gone through a number of motors, engine changes on our police vehicles because they sit idling all day, and there's idling, there's CO2 issue, there's all kinds of bad things that happen with that. So this will, with shore power, it's just like your boat. You know, there's constant power to the vehicle, and it's very easy to modify the vehicles and it's simple to modify the building plans to put shore power.
It's a very quick payback for the amount of money
Yeah.
it costs to make that shelter, to save all that across your entire fleet is definitely significant. Let me think if I didn't think I missed anything else to say.
Application space for fire station.
Oh yeah, we also have in here a potential upgrade to this area outside the fire station where they currently have, they sort of creating this impromptu outdoor space. So that's another one that's in here. I think that's it on the site. Let's move on to the City Hall. So the City Hall building that you're in today is a 7-year-old building, and it has not received really any major renovation except for changing the carpet and paint in its entire lifespan, other than when this end of it, or this is, the police station keeps going this way, so we're not sure the whole thing, because there's really, we just finished the police station project a few years ago. And there's only a little bit of scope there aside from the shelter. We're also talking about creating an evidence cage in the garage. But otherwise, I think we did a good job of meeting all of their needs for the long term there. So there's really not much else we have to do for them. But actually, this end of the building used to be the fire station at one time, and the fire station used the second floor of the building as sort of the residence for the fire department, and that has sat fallow for probably 30 plus years since the fire station was built. It's just full of records and storage and all sorts of stuff. And so what we realized was that was a huge asset, that space. And if we could actually put that back into service, it creates some flex space for us to really rejigger how everything works in the building. So right now on the first floor where we are now, we're actually sitting right here. So in this master plan, one of the other issues is you can see this room is way too small and very difficult. So for me to give a presentation, council would have to get up from their desk, right? And I can go on with the problems with rooms this size, and it also doesn't have the capacity. I've been here, because of all these projects I've done in the city and others in Pepper Pike. I've been here where people are, the whole hallway's full, which is fire department loves that. So it just doesn't work. This was built for a population of like 900 people. Now the population, I can't remember, like 6,000. 7,000. So clearly, it's time to do something about this. And so the concept is that we can demolish this room, and also for those who don't know, there's a conference room space below us too. So there's a lower level underneath. And the other big problem is this building is not ADA accessible in any way. There's levels you you can probably
I
appreciate that
learned
right
that
now.
tonight.
So it must not have been easy to get up in here. So kind of the other, not only the second floor, but also dealing with the vertical circulation in this building. That was kind of like the linchpin for the whole project. So right now, the building just has this one stair at one end. You know, there's this lift outside that doesn't access every floor. There's no way to get from the lower level up here without going outside and getting in that lift. It just doesn't work. It doesn't meet code, and it just doesn't meet common decency, frankly. So we are proposing to add a new elevator to the building that's front and back open, because we'll get into this, but the floor elevations and the ceiling heights are such that we just can't get everything to line. And so we're also picking the grade up outside the building 2 feet in order to be able to get closer into the floor, because you're coming up 2 sets of steps to get in the building now. So creating a new entrance to the building, you'll see the exterior elevations and this hallway, and this is like a secure vestibule that you'll have, that will be able to come in, buzz in, they'll tell you where to go, what to do, and then we have a lobby to wait, for people to come in and wait. And it also doubles as a breakout space for the council chamber, which will have the capacity to seat over 90 people. And it will also have this desk, this dais that you see here will be big enough for the mayor, Sheila, all the council members and the department heads all to sit there, so we don't have, this situation now where everybody's stuffed in the peanut gallery. So, and also by putting the second floor into service, we're putting the mayor's office, the finance office, and the administrative staff up on the second floor to open this floor up for more for the public. So right now, the building department is downstairs. It's hard to find, hard to get to. A lot of, they basically are coming in through the back door. Then we're going to move the building department upstairs on this side of the hall. And then there's also Peter's office, the finance office, and a small conference room here that we're going to take the wall out and clean and create a proper council caucus room and large conference room where they can have their caucus meetings before these meetings, and also other people can come and use them. And then where the mayor's office is now, we're going to convert that to 2 flex meeting spaces. One of them we'll have a place with a desk where your HR consultant can come and have a place to sit down and work, and also a place for instance, for council members who want to have a meeting with a constituent, come here to City Hall, they can sign up and use that room. And then also at this end where the bathrooms are now, they're woefully inadequate. So we're basically doubling the capacity of those bathrooms and making them ADA compliant, which today they're not. And then also the other thing that will be nice is that where the caucus chambers, they'll be able to come in from the back of this without having to filter through the room in the audience when there's a council. Or this room would also be used for ARB meetings, zoning meetings, like this. Any questions about the plan for this one? All right, let's go to the next one. Yeah, oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, so one of the other concepts here is this wall of the lobby, and Jonathan's going to walk through. We have a 3D model that we can kind of walk through to get a sense of what the space looks like. Is to do a Pepper Pike historical timeline and display. Have pictures of the mayors and this. If you go through City Hall, there's all sorts of pictures like this. And there's also just boxes of this stuff downstairs that there's no place to look. So we're going to turn the lobby sort of into the Pepper Pike Museum. Thank you. Yes. So now we're going to go upstairs quickly. So this existing second floor, as I mentioned before, it's just right now being used for storage. So one of the issues with it is if you remember on the outside of the building, there are these dormers, which are the only windows, and they're on the back. It's really dark there. So in order to make these offices work, and you'll see this in the elevations, is we want to combine these dormers and make a large shed dormer and have a lot more glass so that the mayor's office and these admin offices will have the light. And the finance office has 2 of these windows, so as long as it has 2 of them, it's natural and there. And also a financial record storage room off of that office, so it's a secure place. A small meeting room for administrative staff up here, a work copy room, and a single-use toilet room up here for everybody to share. And then we also have a small janitor's closet up here, just so that the custodial staff doesn't have to take their stuff up and down all the time. And then this is a storage room, and then this attic space is where all the mechanical units go. So there's gonna be the whole floor, this will be a concrete slab, this building gets basically all new mechanical systems. What's here is old, outdated, and highly inefficient. So we'll be able to, we're talking about doing a geothermal heating and cooling system, which will save energy for revenue. Any questions about the second floor? We have a full agenda, so if I move it too quickly, forgive me. Okay. Now let's go to the lower level. Okay, so currently on the lower level, we're not really contemplating doing much work at all on the existing part of that level. This grayed out area is the used to be the jail, and that was converted to the armory and the evidence lockers for the police department in our previous department. There's currently a small kitchenette, and this right now is a single office that we're talking about just furnishing. It's like a break room. So we already have the kitchen. Really, all we have to do is put some furniture in here, and maybe just add a dot to it. So on this side, the rest of these rooms where the building department is now, that's all going to be converted to storage. So whatever, once they get everything as paperless as possible, which is possibly completely paperless, we think that all that stuff can be consolidated and stored in these areas. And there's also, if you remember, some other storage that we've left over on the second floor. We're also, and to your presentation before about a community space, it's our programming where we met with, as I mentioned, we met with the fire department and the police department and surveyed the community. We've come up with an idea to do a multi-purpose room that acts, that really the primary use is training and meeting space for your police and fire department. And they also have meetings where they have people from other departments coming. And so this space is really in a great location for that because it's in City Hall, easy for the police department to get to, right across the, a short sidewalk away from the fire department. But also can be used by the community for community events. And as I mentioned, we had done a survey about that, about kinds of events people want to have, what times of day those events want to be, how many people, and even like what kind of food. So we came up with, it's not going to have a full kitchen, but more of a catering style kitchenette, so people can bring food in and serve it in warm food. And also, we're showing with 8 top tables, we can fit 96 people this way. And if we had an event, which some suggested that maybe there's an author who's going to do a book, about their book, or a lecture, or some other kind of a seminar or meeting, we can probably get 200 people in this room. And so one of the things that we've done is, and by how we've dealt with the floor levels of the building, is this room is not really a basement. It's a lower level, and just like this room, these windows, the windowsill is 3 feet off the floor, so when you're in that room, still will have plenty of natural light coming into the room. We have to have this other stair for a second piece of egress. So we're going to look further about how this grade works and how this grade works. I think there's more. I think what we have now is good, and it was enough to be able to get the right numbers in the budget. But I think there's more thinking for us to. There's always more thinking for us to do on these kinds of things. And we're also providing a set of men's and women's toilet with fixtures and sinks and so which is necessary to support this. So right now the building does not by code have enough restrooms, even to serve the areas. But by the time we're done with this, by fixing the ones on this floor, adding these and adding the single-use one on the second floor, we have more than enough facilities for that. Any questions about this?
No, but I would just make the comment, since you're on the record here. I thought an excellent suggestion was made at the infrastructure committee by, I forget who, to excavate out in front of the entrance to that room from the outside where the ramp currently is, and make that more of an outdoor patio that's adjacent to that multi-purpose community room, and it would sort of create an expanded outdoor space and facility that feeds into that room.
Really right.
It seems to be a very reasonable
I think so.
thing that wouldn't add a lot of cost.
It wouldn't add a lot of So we're already gonna be doing so much excavation as it is. I think that if we can find a better solution to this game. And also going back to this one, if we think all the way back to the site plan program, if you have an event with 100 people coming to this parking lot can now support, do you remember how many, we have a net add of like 20 some parking spaces?
37, I think.
Remember the number. So the idea is that, and you'll see in the elevation that we haven't given short shrift to what the back of the building, what that entrance looks like, because we think that that's also for certain times, certain events. It wants to be a nice entrance and a clear, easy to find way into the building.
It does sound wonderful, but I always thought that there were some technical obstacles out here that would prevent.
There's always technical obstacles.
Yeah.
There are already, because of this expansion, there's already some utilities that we have to relocate in order to do that, and that's already built into the budget. That's been identified.
So maybe that goes away as part of the demolition of this wing.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. And so one of the things we did when we started the project was we had Don's folks do a detailed survey. There hadn't really been a new survey done of this entire campus in a long time. And we wanted to make sure that we had that we knew where the utilities were, and that we can't eliminate every surprise, but we know how to eliminate most of them. And there could be a lot of money in that if you don't think of it. So then,
And one other thing, going back to this basement view, is there any space in here that's flexible to be an office for some reason?
I think so.
Administration
Someday-
had to expand
Well, I think
personnel.
first of all, you have the two offices upstairs.
Right.
On this floor, that could become,
Right.
one of those two could easily become.
Right.
We currently have, let's go back. This space now where the building department is, or this room could be an office, which it is not.
Right.
So I think you do have that.
Okay.
I think you could add 3 or 4 staff members after this is done, without having to build new walls or do anything. It's just move the furniture and
Excellent.
So the other thing I like about the multi-purpose room is we're an alternate EOC site for a number of communities and community partners. So the big event takes out the EOC in Beechwood or somewhere else. That is it. Having done these exercises, that's a perfect size space. It's a perfect location, and it's a good way to tie in everything else. So
Well,
I think it's also-
Tell us
observation
what
for
the
when we
acronym EOC.
Emergency Operations Center.
For anyone not familiar, we are the fallback position for emergency operations for other organizations in our region, where they would fall back for operation purposes here at Pepper Pike City Hall. And right now, we are very challenged as to how we would accommodate that obligation of ours to provide that service.
Yeah, and I think that, this room is one of the things that we always try to do, no matter what kind of project it is, to have to design a room that gets used for 8 hours a month. It's just not a good use of resources. But this being a multi-purpose room, for one of its purposes, we see this room being used all the time. And I think that's a really important point. I think one of the other points about it in this building, not only is the location better, but in the survey that Councilman Modi mentioned, we'll build a community room, a community center somewhere else will cost like 3 times as much as it would put here. If we were to build a standalone building that has its own sidewalk, its own utilities, its own parking. And we don't quite know where that we can go on this campus.
So just throw a little more weight behind that. If you've ever been here when the police are training, which I haven't, you watch them trying to convert their lunch break room into a mat room to do their martial arts and their takedown training. It's just not conducive to training. This will be a perfect site for them to do that. Perfect site for all the things the fire department. That room will get used all day just for training.
I think, not to interrupt you, but to follow up that point, we heard earlier this evening the necessary coordination between our fire and police for that terrible accident. And the police and fire train not infrequently at other places, in the schools, wherever, where office buildings to coordinate active shooter situations, things where they need to be coordinated as to how they are responding and interacting with each other. This way, they won't have to await the availability of some outside space, and they can train that much more in our own space. And that's really what their job is about, training, getting ready for that unique event that's going to happen.
We've also in here managed to provide a nice size storage room for the equipment that they need for this, so that they don't have to schlep it around from one building to another. The police have mats that they use to train, and when that stuff comes out, these tables and chairs will fold up and stack, and those can go into it. So it's a really very flexible space that's going to get use. While we're on this plan, also just further on the elevator. One of the issues is that, as you can see, like how low the ceiling is in that hallway. For instance, the fourth floor makes this building very low, but a council chamber wants to have 12, 13-foot ceiling in a room that's as big as we've designed. And this room wants to have 10-foot ceiling for the size of the kind of events. So if you can show you this section, the floors, there's no way really to make them all right now. So using a front and back elevator and having this floor be a few feet above this floor, you're able to go up and down the steps. Yet at the same time, you can get in this elevator, go up, have to stop, so that it's ADA accessible all the way from the let's go back to the first floor. So here again, the council chamber in the lobby is 2 feet below the rest of the floor. There's 3 steps to come up, and you can do the same thing with the elevator. The same elevator, you can get in either side and go up to the second floor and get up to that floor. So that's really what solves the whole access in this whole vertical 3 chest thing that we've got going on here. What's our next slide after the plans? Okay, so the rendering, not the pretty part. So this is the rendering of what the front building would look like from Shaker Boulevard. You'll recognize this is the existing part of the building. This wall right here is that wall right there. Everything from this wall over is new. The existing entrance is right here. So we have this new loggia. We're being very, very sensitive to this Georgian architecture. And we said from the very beginning, when this is done, we want it to look like it's always been here and not flex some modern design muscle where it's not wanted. So we have, and then behind it, we have a fairly glassy wall to get plenty of natural light because we do have rooms behind here. These windows, for instance, are in that those rooms there, the council caucus rooms. So we still want to be able to get natural light in there. And this will be nicely lit at night, so we'll have this nice glow on the front of the building. This is the new council chamber with a dormer on the roof. You'll see there's a little one in the back. We have to get some air in and out of that attic because that's where all the mechanical is. We would match the brick, all the trim would match. And again, when this is done, it'll feel like it's always been here. So really nice. So now this is the south elevation, really out of that parking lot here, looking back this way. These are the windows that are into the multi-purpose rooms, and the mayor's point we're looking at, pushing this down and maybe creating a whole patio outside of it, and using that as part of how we're getting out, how we're getting our second means of egress out, how we're dealing with this ramp to get in here. And this is an open, glassy thing, so you can see the stair. That's obviously the circulation. And there's a canopy over that door, so when you're parking in that lot, it's going to be painfully obvious that that's where you're supposed to go. You can also see here, this is one of the dormers in the back. There's also a bay, which is actually with that little kitchenette is in here. This has a Canadian window. Louvers up here in the pediment, and also the large louver in this dormer, which is actually sized based on the biggest piece of equipment, because that's how we get equipment in. Both under construction, and then someday if it ever has to be a major piece of equipment has to be replaced. And then you can see over here where I mentioned before on the second floor, right now there's a couple of small dormers that we want to take off and make a large shed dormer with a glass door. That's basically creating nice offices for the mayor and the administrative staff. Next, and this is just the roof plan showing, all of this is new roof area. That's that new shed dormer over the offices. Next slide.
The shed dormers do have a pitch. They're not.
Yes, they're not that. No,
not
horizontal. No roof is dead. It'll have a membrane roof that's sloped to a gutter. All the these are just some some 3D axonometric views of the column, just to show how the massing of this will all work. Just look at it for a second. Okay, go to the next one, please. Okay, and then just showing you again, this is, this was one of the trickiest parts of the project, frankly, was figuring out this vertical relations. Working this all out. So this is just showing how this stair works in conjunction with the elevator, that we're able to land on every one of these 5 different levels that we have without it feeling like that. So it's a very easy, seamless way to do it. Go to the next one, please. Exterior elevations. So you've already seen the rendering. This is the front of the building. This is an aerial level. There's going to have to be here because there's also mechanical units down in the lower level. This is the end of the building that's going to face Brainerd Circle, and it's a pretty prominent. So if you stand out there and you look at the building, it's an important thing. So we don't want to just give it short shrift and create 3 windows. And we also needed a dormer anyway in order to be able to get more air. So we created this floating window bay that I think really will make that end of the building something a little more special. And then again, the rear of the building, the south of the building facing the park. So again, this is that entrance with the canopy and the stair button here. There's that dormer again for the offices. I'll go back. And then just to point out also that there's also a small dormer here that we need for the elevator shaft to get the overlook, but we sort of kind of hidden behind that entrance. So it's really intrusive. Next. Okay, so here these are section cuts through the building, so you can see what I'm talking about. This is the existing stair at one end, and council chamber level is 2 feet below this level, and the multi-purpose room level. What is this, about a 4-foot drop? Yeah, so that's just sort of showing in section how we've solved that entry. Okay, now just very, very quickly, just showing in plan 2 potential additions to the service building. And it could be one or the other or either, depending on where the whole project works out. So I have some other thoughts about that too that we can deal with in design development. Next, these are just some elevations of it. And again, when we're done, just like when we did this addition a few years ago, it's the same vernacular as the building is now. If you didn't know, this building is built in like 4 different pieces and it all looks cohesive. When we did that 5 or 6 years ago, we put an addition on that building to solve most of their problems, but 5 years later. Next. Okay, so the other thing I alluded to earlier was the mechanical system for this building. We're proposing to do a geothermal system. Basically, they would, out in this parking lot, drill 24 geothermal wells, and that's where we get all of our heating and cooling from. So it's a system that costs a bit more upfront, but once it's paid for, it pays off forever downstream. So basically, these are 500-foot deep wells with a pipe in it, so it uses the earth as a heat source and a heat sink, depending on what season it is. And then all the piping runs back to the building. That's the last one. Okay, so next, if we can, we'll try to do this quickly. I know you guys have the full agenda. Jonathan was going to just kind of walk you through the building. So right now, these are just very kind of wireframe. We're in design development. These renderings that you saw, this interior model will get much more developed with color and the right materials, and you'll know exactly what this space and these spaces are going to look and feel like before anybody builds anything.
Our camera is starting out in the loggia as we move forward into this space. We are looking into the space layout of what would be that lobby / historic display space area.
So that would be this whole wall here would be that Pepper Pike Museum for somebody comes up with a better word.
Moving forward, we're looking into the proposed new council chamber space with the seating area for council and also department heads in the back there on the dais, raised approximately 2 feet off of the ground, proposing that we would have a more intricate ceiling, offered space in this area opposed to some of the other less hierarchical spaces between stakeholders. Do we want to go anywhere?
I don't think we need to go look into the individual rooms, so this was, coming from that lobby up into the hallway where the building department is. And then to the right.
Here, a door for the elevator on this level. We're moving into that rear large volume stairwell. Going down. Just going to showcase the community room. This is your community room below the council chamber. Along the back, you're letting light into the space because of regrading. If we were to go the route of having sunken space where you can walk out, you can bring these windows down lower. You can have doors that go out into the patio space. And then in the rear, you can see that bump out allows you to have a kitchenette space right off of the multi-purpose.
Let's just go through, show the offices. That's it for now. So this is the hallway on the second floor where the administrative is.
So
And then on the right would be the mayor's office.
So just kind of showcasing how that rear dormer addition lets a lot of southern light into this space where you have all these offices on the second floor and the back.
Is there enough shading at these offices on the southern exposure?
Yeah,
The southern exposure, and that's just gonna bake out. Is there enough of an overhang?
Right now, I don't think we're showing enough overhang. But the glass stuff would be like in any office building, on one beam coding, right? Shading coefficient, so that it doesn't, so it basically stops the UV, but lets in the visual light. I feel like if you think about most office buildings, they don't have shading places on those ones. But I think here we do have the opportunity to do that. And I think it might actually add a little depth and make it look a little bit better. Sorry, so during design development, we continue to explore. So any questions about the design?
Yeah,
As it stands now?
Yeah, I'll start. Just, I'm been here for 14 years, and the average attendance at council meetings is about 10, and that hasn't changed. Why do we need 90 seats? I understand that every year there's some issue that we need a town hall, and we use the schools, but on a day-to-day basis, the average attendance is going to get completely lost in that room. It just, not 90 seems way overdone.
I think we're designing for the worst case. I think it's largely understanding that.
But that's
It's not,
once,
people will sit up for.
yeah, that's kind of designing the church for Easter Sunday, right? It's just
I guess that's what, yeah, that's
or the temple for Yom Kippur. Is that kind of,
It is designed for you. It's exactly when it's designed.
yeah, but given that, the utilization of 90 seats is just not going to happen once a year. I don't understand why we would spend all that money for a very low utilization event when we've always worked very successfully with the schools to have a big event, and that's worked out very well. And so I'm just thinking of the capital cost.
Right, and I hear what you're saying. Part of it is that it's not the council chambers per se. It's also the council chambers becomes a reflection of a large mixed-use room underneath. So if you're creating that, you end up with
that's
larger.
To me, that's a little bit of a tail that wagging the dog. I guess
I think it's gonna be really utilized.
I'll say that.
let me just finish if you want. I'm really uncertain of that, and I don't know that, just from my impression, and maybe you have more data than I think you do, that having that community center is configured like it's configured, in one big open room is going to get less utilization from at least some of the things that I think people might want to use it, as opposed to a building where you could partition off the space. You have 4 card tables for your bridge group, or you can have a small event, and one that has glass to the outside where you could have an outdoor patio. I'm not as optimistic as you are.
Maybe your point is not totally lost. maybe it needs one of those, because many large rooms, my law firm has a very large room. And it has, a divider that collapses and can create two rooms out of it. That may be something to think about doing.
But just from an attractiveness use space, and social events don't tend to be in basements. And I just, you're more optimistic than I am that people will want to hang out in that space, except for a very big event. But for small events, you want to have a small birthday party. I can think of a dozen things that you need. You want something you can drive right up to. It's a small event space. And you wouldn't choose that in part because of its scale and size, and in part because it's in a basement.
But just don't dismiss this idea of the divider, because that's exactly what the library
I was
does
just gonna
with
say,
this room.
and in terms of the library, that room usage, I know I try to book it sometimes for the service committee weeks out, and it's booked. It's just booked all the time.
You can't get in.
Right, and so I think that I do like the idea of having a way to segment it a little bit and make it a little bit more intimate for some purposes. But I mean, I can see the I don't want to say like, if you build it, they will come, but like I can see that becoming part of just the community thinking like, I have an event, I need a place to have it, where should I have it? And it's like becomes one of the list of possibilities.
But for that space, it's divided and there's no windows in one space. And it's, a really dark room. I guess I would, to help us make this choice and help our residents make this choice, I would really like to see just conceptual what a standalone looks like. I know it's a lot more cost, I get that, but I would really like to just have something to compare and say, okay, this is a lot more costly. This is in a basement, it's still a basement, I understand it's a lower level. It's still a basement, you're going down 3 flights of stairs, and 3 of the walls are dark, and you have 1 bank of windows. And the size of the scale of the space, it's one big square, really doesn't lend itself to being cutting off the corner.
I would remind you though that at Vanderhaven, its major banquet room has 0 windows. The interior large banquet room is 0 windows.
For a banquet, I get that. In a hotel, that's my experience as well. In a hotel, you're having a wedding or a wedding reception. There's no windows. But I'm envisioning other uses where, again, like the neighborhood.
I have a couple of comments that, in terms of the standalone facility, one of the things that I wonder, that's starting to sound more like a party center. And I don't know that we're necessarily wanting to be in the party center business.
We don't.
And so this to me is, an all-purpose room. Yeah, maybe we can break it down so it's smaller to have the Boy Scouts can meet in there. But I don't know that we're wanting to have people come in and throw in weddings. And I don't know if we want to be in that business.
That's the last thing I
envision. And then the other thing I want to say back to the council chamber side, I think we are designing for Easter because of frankly the audiovisual technology. We want to be able to be consistent on how we deliver the recordings of our sessions. If we're moving around all the time, we start losing our reliability to record and present remotely our sessions.
If the room were half the size and sat 50, you could still record all those sessions in that one. And then the rare occasion in which you have to use another space, you just have to have another system.
Well, so we could debate on how many people we expect to show up for Easter, but I think we want to be, to the extent we can, have all our sessions in one place. There's a tremendous amount of stability that we get by not moving around.
And my question is, I'm thinking of the candidates at issues night and state of the city and things like that. Mayor, do you envision those events taking place in a lower level room or in council chambers? Because I feel like that's sort of, the things that we typically.
I can't say that I envision
either.
I haven't gone that far.
Yeah, just because I'm thinking, if we go to Brady and that setup is more like the lower level, and then you can fit 100 people, no problem. I don't know if it lends itself to, like a presentation style, there's no like elevated surface. But, I think that that's kind of an important consideration as well. The reason I like the attached space is because I think a ton of this use is gonna be the training, and you don't want the police and fire, whoever, having to shove all their stuff over to some other building to do their training as well. And where would another building go?
Well, I think the community space will be not only for training thing, which is, I think, very important, but we have, last weekend, we had a large city event, and our guys are there hosing down a service garage. And we put a smile on it, and I make a little happy joke, as a member of my party center, and I send out an email, and everyone shows up. They're standing in a garage on a concrete floor with shovels hanging out. And it's okay. It worked fine, I guess, and people had a good time. But I think we will make very good use of that. When we have a movie theater and it's raining outside, well, we don't go into a garage and tell people to sit on a concrete garage floor. We bring it in here. I think we're going to find tremendous use for this room.
Let me ask a question here. This current design, what is driving it? Is it the council chamber? Is it the primary, or is it lower level?
Yes. I think it's equal.
Are they,
I think
do they have to be sized, like, together?
Ideally, because
Okay.
the footprint,
Yeah.
the most efficient thing is to make the footprint the same. I think you made a good point before that. We're talking a lot about this room as community room space, but I think it's vastly going to be used more by your safety forces for those kinds of meetings and those kinds of things. That's to me the need that comes first before I think being able to use. That's why we're designing this multi-purpose room, to be able to get that other use out of it also. So I think that flexibility is the key.
I'm glad you said that. I have 2 points here. I think, to me, the question is, what is the ideal capacity for a future council chamber? Is it this size, or is it
It is
slightly smaller?
We looked at council chambers in a lot of like-sized communities, and there are many communities with less population than we usually have council chambers bigger than this. So
And what's attendance at those communities on a typical night?
that's what I don't know. I know that to your point, you're designing to the maximum capacity. I mentioned earlier, I've been here I remember when when I was working on the landing project, and it was at the same time as the Beachbrook School thing. And there were people just down the hall.
It does happen, for sure.
So
Are we designing
I
for?
really do. And
So what size do you want?
How much does the mechanical space drive this? It's just gonna be, can it be compressed, or do you need all that space for mechanical?
Unfortunately, it's taking up more of it than I wanted it to. I want to be able to have some more potential storage up there. But that equipment sitting up there, that way it's not sitting out on the ground and not making noise outside.
So how big a space do you want?
50, I thought would be right.
So,
More than enough for a.
so that room is about twice as big, the design is around twice as big as this?
Yes, however, if you really think about the way that it's set up, this part of the room is the size it's gonna be
No matter what.
In order to be put everything. So really, all you're probably saving by cutting the seating in half, you're probably only taking maybe 20% of the space. That's the most dense part of it, the rows of tables and chairs. So you basically, if you were gonna make it, for 50, you're probably only taking this piece off.
I will also tell you from his survey, the number for the community center, you did 96 on round tables, and people, 90 to 100 was about, it seemed to be, when I looked at all the surveys, that was about
Let me jump in on
what
that for a
people
second.
came back with.
I think I don't want to get us too confused on this terminology, right? A community center has a very different purpose than a community room, okay? And if this scope of this is a room,
It is.
if we did a full-blown survey to our city, which some folks may want a center, which is a very different purpose from my learnings. It's not just hold events, it's again, it's indoor, outdoor space. I actually got some inspirational photos to share if we want to go there, but I think if we start confusing it, then
No, I think
this
you're
gets lost.
absolutely right,
You know what I mean?
but that suggests that it's not an either or.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's not an either or, and so, yeah, we could look at that long term, we could look at what we can afford, but it doesn't preclude us from doing this because there are immediate needs for this.
When you say, first of all, I generally agree with what you just said.
It,
But what do you mean by this?
this current design. This
Current design.
proposal, yeah.
My recollection of the survey was that you had a pretty small turnout in terms of numbers.
We did not. We had over 100, which for the size of the city is pretty significant. There was over 100
I
responses.
thought it was like 50-50 as to whether people wanted it or not, but
Right.
But also, you gotta think about service, right? You're not showing them a rendering of what an option looks like. You're just saying, would you use such a space if it existed? I think our job here is not just to rely on survey data, but to make the best use of city
Also,
money.
that's a
and
very
goals.
different question. Would you use it, or do you think the city should have one? Like, I don't necessarily know that I would use the community room, but I absolutely think that people in the city would use it, so therefore we should provide it. You know, those are two very
Yeah.
different things, yeah.
Where I'm going with that is, if you're filling the survey, people don't know, oh, okay, are you attaching it as
Right.
lower level? You're doing it as standalone, or
In
doing
the
some
abstract.
hybrid version?
Yeah.
What is a community center?
That too.
Because all 100 people who answered that question, well, half of them said, no, I wouldn't use it. So the half that said, I would use it, what's in their brain about what a community center is? Is it this, or is it a standalone with a weight room attached? Or is it I mean, what is a community center? If you look at others that are in the community, some are standalone buildings and they have just rooms. Some have little amenities attached to them, some have outdoor spaces attached to them. So I think asking our residents in the abstract, would you like this, without defining what it is?
It wasn't asked in the abstract. They were told or requested to volunteer, what would you want to use it for? And if they wanted to say, I want a weight room, that was right there for them to volunteer in, saying, I want a weight room, I want a swimming pool, I want a bar mitzvah space. They could have said anything they want.
That's a rec center.
But
I mean, there's,
but-
I think you make a good point.
Can I ask you a question, Rick? It's been some time since we got that survey results back. I don't remember who sent it to us, but could you make sure that it's sent back out? Because I'd like to review it again. I didn't think that there was much need expressed by the city for review.
To make a multi-million-dollar decision on 50 responses,
That's what we get paid for. I mean,
we
got elected to do this.
So this is a community asset.
Sure it is.
So wouldn't you like more residents to participate in letting us know?
I'd
what
like more
they're
than 10
looking for?
residents to come to council meetings.
Well, I
getting
still
into the question.
question whether the one negates the other. I mean,
Right.
You know, this whole discussion about standalone community center, rec center, that's, yeah, we could pursue that. This question is a multi-purpose room, which I think we've learned would primarily benefit our own administration. And yes, by being flexible, other people can take advantage of it. It sounds very powerful to me. But yes, we can have a whole other survey analysis as to whether someday we create a standalone facility and what it would look like.
So I guess the point though, Jim, for you is if we go to 50 seats in the council chamber, we don't lose 50% of the build-out space. We save 20%.
That's if you continue on that configuration of the seating up front, which chews a lot of space up. you could have a configuration where that is along one wall and oriented the other way. And that way you could save a lot more space if you went to smaller seating.
But that's the wrong aspect ratio for the room for the audience, to have everybody stretched out along a full wall. It just doesn't work.
But that-
It's like imagine it being in a movie theater, and they turn it sideways.
But that depends on the design of the building. So you could orientate the building the other way. You've got plenty of land out there to do that.
The point is though, that the narrow end of the building is where this was, not the wide.
My point is, could you orientate the building that way, right? And put it as a wall, put those seats in a line rather than.
In the hope of saving how much money?
It makes the building much longer and narrower, which is also more expensive than the perfect building is a cube. It's the most efficient way to build a square as possible.
All the most important, I'm sorry.
No, as far as like, not to get too arcane, but as far as like the amount of wall to floor area, a square is the perfect shape for a building. So,
Let me ask you this.
The most important question, what's the number?
I'm happy to share it if we're ready to go. So part of the most important part of the schematic design is what is this going to cost? So in other words, we had to make sure that we designed this far enough along in enough detail for an cost estimate, which we've done. So we have, and as I mentioned, we had it broken down. So right now the indicated cost for the city hall building, including the AVIT and the FF&E and fee, architecture fees and all that. I'm sure that this can be shared with you. So it's a little over $8.5 million.
Just City Hall?
Yes. The site work is $540,000. The police department, almost $43,000. Fire department, about $40,000, and the service building was about $1.5 million. So to do everything is $10,659,000 in a few years. If you didn't do, for instance, the service department or the fire department, you took that out, then it would be like $9 million. City hall, the site work, and the stuff that include this building.
And you have contingency money built into that.
Yeah, there's 15% of that cost is contingency.
And that includes all the soft costs?
Yes.
When you were first here, at least the last time, it was at 4 million.
And that was what I thought for City Hall. You remember, I was very reluctant.
I understand.
I regret answering that question.
I understand, but off by 100%?
Well, at the time, all we had were bubble diagrams. We had, one of the big costs of this was how we had to deal with the circulation, and the building got bigger because of it. So there's, square footage costs money. So $400 a square foot adds up pretty fast. So
Let me ask a question. Even before I was going to see any of this, and you said the price, just thinking how to make decisions of this magnitude, is there options here, right? Meaning, let's call this a size extra large. You're sizing it. Could there be a design version where it's a medium or large?
Yeah.
And it still gets the job done.
And I think that this budget is the conservative budget. And I think it doesn't take into account any of the kind of value engineering ideas that we have someplace that we would have to explore, that we could save some money. And I think, to your point, if that's, if making it smaller is part of it, I think, we have this saying where we're budgeting the design, which we've done. And then the next step is to design the budget. So maybe you tell us that you can't spend that kind of money, and what can we do for $1 million less for the sake of argument? And I think my gut is that by the time we're done with this, we can do most of this. Because there's a significant amount of contingency in there, and there are some ideas that we have that aren't really ready to share, and I think that's part of the next process, and that's part of the process, which we can talk about later about how we would do that and how we would put cost to some of these alternates going forward. So it's very normal part of the process of any project like this, especially in a project where it's additions and renovations like that, which is much more complex and frankly harder to understand than building a new building somewhere, on a virgin site. Which is, there's a lot less need for contingency.
I want to add to this, as we look at what is a significant dollar figure, obviously. we need to remember that we're not talking about writing a check out of our capital reserve to build this building, to do this renovation. This is going to have to be financed. So what we're also looking at is what is the debt service charge? Because that is what our ongoing expense is going to be, not the purely, oh, it's a $9 million project. It's how much annually as debt service is this project going to cost us? Because that is how it's going to impact us.
At another time, I want to understand that, why we need to finance that, given we have 30 million cash. But putting that aside for a second, can you break down, Paul, just for example, just the community room, whatever it is, what is the total cost of that as opposed to building on a slab? Can you give us an estimate of what that would be?
I can't say it here right now. I mean, the way that the estimate is put together was not, I can't tell you what a community room costs this much of the project. It's all fake, he's basically
Right.
taken off all the masonry,
Right.
all the flooring, so it's not really possible to tell you how much.
Is there, and again, not holding you to this, but is there a rule of thumb as to lower levels as a percent of the product? I mean, it's typically 25%, 20% in rough justice terms. I just want to understand.
There's a lot of give and take, right? Because the lower level, while maybe it doesn't have as much exterior skin digging a hole in your waterproof.
Right.
So it's probably at a square foot basis about the same as it would be any other kind.
And that's 400 a foot roughly.
Mr. Lemay, I'm curious, if you take away the multi-purpose room, how are you imagining that the needs would get fulfilled?
Yeah, well, what I was contemplating, and has always been contemplating, I thought this would be in the mix as a standalone facility that could serve all of these same purposes.
In addition to.
No, the reason I asked that question was comparing this on a slab and not doing the chambers.
So in addition to renovating City Hall and expanding the council room, but only doing it with the council room being on a slab, you would build a standalone building to fulfill the training room and what did you call the
community center?
No, the operational
DOC.
DOC needs. You would build a standalone building and hope that would be less expensive.
It would be more expensive.
Yeah.
And what I just want to understand is the trade-offs between those two and understand the cost. So I can just visualize those two alternatives, and just even in rough justice about what that would look like, what that would cost, rather than just saying, okay, we're going to assume our residents would prefer this option. I just like to see it, just understand it, whether it could be done and what the 2/3 more, and that's why I'm asking this question about the basement, and trying to get a sense of that cost and understanding how much more it would be to do a standalone building, single floor of equivalent size to the basement, that you could have some more options to do with in terms of partitioning, and it'd be on outdoors at ground level, so it's better accessibility. I just see a lot of advantage to that, and I just want to understand what the trade-off is.
So my question too on that is where?
Well, I think there's a number of places. In the parking lot would be one place further back. On the empty lot where there was a house, and we have all the utilities hooked up, presumably are still there. Those are two places that come to mind.
Hold on, I got a couple thoughts. I think we should finish this discussion. And I've got, if you would give me like 3 minutes, I've got some inspirational photos that can ground us and align us on what a standalone community center even means. But I don't want to take away from this. I mean, this is real. That's just conceptual ideas.
So are you on the addition, keep this, and then additional building?
I'm saying, just for this, I would love to see at least one, if not two, virgin options that would be less of a price tag. And see what we lose if we go down price.
How much down? How much are you trying to save to make yourself cover?
I think it'd be great, I'm just spitballing here, to see something between starting at like 4 million to the 8.5 here. But I don't know, I mean, it's just made up number.
But that's part of why I don't understand why 9 million is hard to accept. Because you don't even know what number you're trying to get to.
All I'm saying is,
what's wrong with 9 million then?
nothing by itself. It's just good to have options to make the best decision. Right now, this is the only option.
Well, I think it's easy to see and understand that taking the lower level community mixed purpose room and recreating any iteration of that as a freestanding building is going to be tremendously more expensive than doing the space below us. Because it just by definition has to be tremendously more expensive.
One of the questions I would have for you, Councilman Louise, since you've done some of the surveys about this community center, this is the first I've heard of it. What needs or what wants aren't being satisfied by this facility, with this event center?
Show you a couple slides.
Well, I mean,
I'd like to see them.
I'd like to see them somewhere, but the question is like, as far as the use.
It's just a very different purpose.
Okay, let's just talk about it. We're not gonna have another slideshow, I don't imagine. We'll just talk about what it is, please.
Well, I'd like to see it. If you've got
We can do that, but we're gonna have, we need to keep focused as to what this agenda item is and to discuss it. If we wanna do a
I respect that.
freestanding
I respect that.
building, I think we should schedule a freestanding building discussion.
Where's the staff while this is all happening?
The staff is gonna probably relocate to the same way the police department did to mobile offices.
And how's what's the sort of timeline for completion?
I think this whole project for this building, especially if we get everybody out of the building,
Yeah.
is probably 12 to 14 month process. And there's actually a cost, a line item in here, a cost pattern if we have to phase the project and try to keep people in place, which was a long conversation we had with Chief Dietz when we did the police station.
Yeah.
It was determined that I think we saved like $250,000 by them just, living on a trailers, for lack of a better way to put it. For months.
I have to make a comment to the statement. Primarily, Mr. Schmidt and Colonel Reister. We first talked about doing something in the city hall about 2 years ago, maybe 3. And the price tag then was about $2 million. Now we're talking about a $10 million project. That's 5 times as much without 5 times as much bang for the buck. You have to give those of us who've been around for a while some time to understand why this is a good thing to do, to spend $10 million.
Well, I can tell you why the building is costing a lot more than that original estimate. Because we had a conversation, and it was Mr. LeMay's excellent suggestion of, let's open up the upstairs of this building. And when you do that, now you're driving an elevator to get up there. And, that's where you go to the races. Once we open up and utilize the top of this building, the upstairs, that changes the scope of this project dramatically. It's not fair to say, oh, it was only $2 million. We're talking about building a big family room at that point.
Reasonably, though, you would think that using the space we already have would bring the cost down.
Well, I would.
Hey, let me finish my statement, please. You're saying that it multiplies the price by 5 times? It just doesn't.
I would explain it a little differently to say that in the past, when you were at 2 million, the conversation was merely the expansion of council chamber.
That's right.
Now we're renovating the entire building, and they did a needs assessment that went way beyond just council meetings. They went through all of the staff and other participants and identified, for instance, hey, the building department gets a lot of traffic. Wouldn't it be nice if instead of in the basement, they were on the first floor? So that's why the project got bigger, is we said, hey, this isn't just about expanding the council chamber. This is about taking our 70-year-old building and bringing it up to the 21st century.
I think this went from a needs assessment to a wants assessment. And that's my assessment of what we've got. We have a wants assessment. Some of these things that we're talking about accommodating in 14 years I've been here have never been mentioned.
Like what?
Like this joint training between the police and fire. And that them not having a space for it. All of a sudden, they don't have a space for it. I mean, that's
This
just one little
is what a
example.
needs
So-
assessment is about. And I would remind council correctly insisted on a needs analysis. And that's what was undertaken, a needs analysis. So if you never heard about it before, well, perhaps we never did this needs analysis before. And now these things have been exposed as things that are missing in our operations.
Stand by my statement that a needs assessment became a wants assessment.
But there's always that risk. I don't,
Let me, I guess, to that other point, you're mentioning, I was open to understanding how we could utilize the second floor, but I look at the plans and I ask you, is there the bang for the buck? I mean, I'm assuming doing what we're doing on the second floor is probably $1 million by itself. I don't know, but it's a big project. It's changing roof lines, you're sitting up an elevator, you're adding dormers. And I guess when I look at where the space is, and I just, what are we getting for that would make us more efficient? I mean, I just don't understand. For example, you could renovate the upstairs to just be storage space and make it more efficient storage space, but not make it public space. And so you wouldn't need an elevator, it's just storage space, not public. And then make better utilization down here. And just, to me, that's the other big variable here is adding the community center below. The other variable is opening the third floor. And just, maybe, Mayor, you can articulate the advantages of doing that. I mean, I like your office as it is right now. But if you can articulate.
My office is fine. I think the needs analysis, which revealed that the building department would serve the public better, to the question of how does this make us more efficient and provide value to the community. Yes, that provides value to the community, bringing the building department to this floor. That displaces the administrative offices. Somebody sitting in that chair where you are said, I think it's a complete waste for us to be storing a bunch of paper upstairs in the whole second floor of this building. You said that, Jim.
You're characterized that we should use that space better, is my comment. And I don't want to attribute that. I insisted that the mayor have an office up there with a nice view. That was not, my comment was, can we utilize space we have rather than building new? And the context of that comment 2 years ago, when I first made it, was we don't have enough space, we should expand the council chambers and do other things. And I said, we should look at the best use of that. And that could be, and I look at the current plan, and there's storage space on this level, there's storage space in the basement. Very expensive. If we took all that storage space and says, we're gonna make top class storage space on the third floor and consolidate all of that for good storage space with a space that's now on this level and now on the below level. That strikes me as a far less expensive and very efficient way to use the upstairs and wouldn't cost nearly as much as this is going to cost. So that's the kind of utilization I wanted to be open to.
Using our building, it's my belief, using our building to store at times 30-year-old paper that we can't throw out because is an absurd use of our building.
I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating we should digitize all that and get rid of it. But in the current design, there's a large storage space on this floor. Unspecified how it was going to be used. There's a large storage space in the basement that's going to be used. And my question is, if we have that storage space needed for storage, whatever was gonna go in there, couldn't it be better utilized to use that space upstairs, keep it as non-public space? And you don't have to build the dormer, you don't have to build the elevator. It'd be a huge cost savings.
Well, I think that, I'm not saying that this has to be the perfect design that we're looking at tonight. I think it's a very good, I think it's an excellent design. I think that in the earlier iterations of, and Mr. Gentili was at an early conceptual presentation, he thought this was excellent.
I thought it was a
conceptual
design.
You did.
I didn't know it
You did.
cost
We hadn't heard
$10
a price yet. We hadn't heard a price yet. But conceptually, you thought it was, a really good layout that was being described. And I think our obligation is to deliver a building not only for today, tomorrow, but 30 years from now, 50 years from now. Just like this building has served this public for 50 years, as Mr. Deutsch pointed out, this building was built for a village that had a population of about 800 people. We now have a city of nearly 7,000 people. There are needs of this building. We have people with ADA needs that try to access this building. And, it's challenging. We have I think we qualify legally for ADA compliance. I don't think it's a very admirable way that the building accomplishes it. That's not, there's a difference between, we meet the standard with, this is something we're proud of the way it's occurring. I think this design does accomplish those community needs. I think this community room, no, it's not a community center, it's not the JCC. This is not what is, contemplated here. But it's a room that's gonna have great utility for not only our own staff, but for the community in general. We had people sitting out in the hall tonight for one little presentation of an event. That's not the way Pepper Pike, the #1 rated community in the state of Ohio, ought to be functioning. We shouldn't be that. That when we had a number of meetings, public meetings, what is it now, a year and a half ago or whatever, that we have to go beg and borrow from the school district. Oh, can we use your room, please? Can we schedule it, please? Can we set up, someone's iPhone for a state of the city address earlier this year in order to record it, because we have no audio visual capabilities to do anything. That is not how this city deserves to be served and operated. We deserve a first-rate operation. And, it's gonna cost a bunch of money. I still think, to your comment, we have $30 million in cash, why would we, borrow? We have $30 million of reserves. A lot of it is dedicated to special funds that is not available just generally to go do anything other than what the fund is that the funds are sitting in. I think that the city has embarked on a fairly ambitious program of trails and other infrastructure improvements. And I would like to see that money still available for those sort of infrastructure improvements. And I think that depending on what the debt service charge to the city would be, that might be a better utilization of the funds that we do have to service debt for a project of this magnitude, rather than just drain out all the cash to the detriment of other important infrastructure programs that we want to engage in. That's sort of like a lot of my thoughts.
So the $2 million project,
I second that.
it was, I wasn't involved in it, I kind of sat, I don't know if I was here yet, but it's more of a, I would say, a Band-Aid. This is a gutting of the building to take it really to make it, bring it up to standard. You just walk in the front door, it's kind of actually embarrassing. And it really, it's a 40-year, 50-year project. This takes the building all the way up into the 2020s and out to 2060, 2070. It's a huge investment, but it takes care of a lot of stuff.
But that project that was proposed 2 years ago, by Paul in 2024, I think. Now it's 2 years ago in June, because I have a copy. It has the same front, almost similar, and it solved the ADA issue completely, which was a key objective, and we all agree that's table stakes. We have to solve that. But that program solved the ADA issue.
It didn't solve it completely.
I can go over your plan with you. And then it expanded the city council chambers by adding on, not demolishing the whole building. And so it was a different plan, a smaller plan. I guess in looking at this, and hearing the price tag, I would want to really think hard about the upstairs part of this. And whether
I think everything has to be thought about hard. I'm not disagreeing.
because I really think that if we look at the various pockets of storage around the building, not having to completely gut that upstairs and turn it into a public space with an elevator is a chance to really bring the cost down and not lose a lot, I think, with further thoughtfulness about how we arrange this. For example, I mean, this is designed for a huge conference room on this floor. Could that conference room go someplace else and make more efficient use of space? It just, to me, the biggest variables was adding the basement and then opening the third floor. I mean, I'm guessing those were big cost drivers since, we had this conversation 3 months ago. I mean, it strikes me, those are the two biggest variables that maybe weren't contemplated as much when we talked
I want to ask
3 months ago.
one question though. I think you said something about $1.5 million for the service department. So a few years ago, I can't tell you how many, we did a project for the service department that cost, I don't remember how much.
1.8 million, and I agree, I think that part can be deferred. I don't think we have to run to.
Let me finish my question. A $1.8 million project that would give us a 35-year service department. There we are, X number of years later, not even 10, much less than that, talking about spending almost the same amount again. That, because things don't logically line up. They're not logically consistent with what we were told before, with what we're being asked to be thinking about now. And so it's hard to wrap your head around this.
I kind of think about it two ways, right? If you're building your own home, you have your wish list. Architect designs it to that wish list, and then gives you that price tag. You're like, well, that's way out of my budget. What do we lose if we have to bring it down? And then you realize, I'm losing this big thing that I really want, this Four Seasons room. I'm gonna splurge, I want that. So I think, to me, I hear the number today. I think it's our job as an elected official just to question, is there some version of this that costs less, and what do we lose? Then we can make an educated decision. We'll have all the options on the table. That's where I was going with my question.
No, I think that's a fair question. I think one of my reactions to Paul, when I heard these numbers was, well, maybe we don't do, no offense, Mr. Monahan, maybe we don't do these service department things, because I had the same reaction that Mr. Gentili did. We just spent a lot of money to update our service department. And not that there can't, service departments change. I think it was all well designed and it works well. Well, rather than build, maybe there are other ways of handling it. Maybe we could have some shed roofs, like we're talking about for the police cars, that could handle weather protection for some of this equipment at a far lesser amount than putting in, bricks and mortar buildings. So we can handle, and I think we can, as Paul said, this is a very conservative number. So everyone shouldn't freak out at the number yet, because we haven't drilled down yet as to how do we trim this up and make the elections that we want to make as to what we do, what we don't do, what do we defer, what is a great idea maybe, but doesn't that be a great idea today? Something like some of that service department stuff, you know, there's $1 million of contingency built into here. I think some of the contingency we should reasonably expect. You're gonna tear into old walls, you're gonna find something. Doesn't mean you're gonna spend $1 million. I think that was a very conservative number that Paul threw out there, as I understand it, having had this conversation with Paul about, well, that's a lot of money for contingency. That's 10% of your project.
You know, sometimes I feel listening here, when people say, well, it's too much, it's what, how do you even know I don't even know that we have a good sense of what we can afford. I mean, it sounds like we're Depression-era children that have become millionaires, but we're still afraid to go get a new car.
I think, I mean, you think about the past, 15 years of the city's history, like that's not, I think this is a justifiable approach.
What's that?
To be just knowing how far the city has come in 15 years and like that memory of really not being a great financial situation is still very
But
fresh.
I think it's it scarred us, and so somehow we need to get to where we understand what can we really afford, because we're afraid to make these hard decisions. And the truth is, yeah, we may be able to afford the new car. You know, we're millionaires
And
now.
that was actually my point of saying, I need to understand better what a debt service figure is, because it's hard to even react and be, hair on fire or, oh, it's no big deal.
So in that
But
sense,
until we
so
understand what the
if
debt
we look at
service
debt service, like, we have a bond that's very significant that pays off next year. And then there's some that come shortly thereafter. So there's a lot of freeing up in the bond fund coming in the next year or two. So to the mayor's point, what is the number that we really would want to finance? How much money does that get us?
I think our needs should drive us and not how much money we have. I think that's completely backwards. No business, nobody who is to invest in long-term assets starts with, we got this much money, let's spend. That's backwards. That's not the way it's done.
No, but it's, like Sandeep said, there might come a point where you're looking at the 3-season room and you're trying to decide how much does it mean to me versus, what it costs. And we might say, hey, yeah, we could afford the 3-season room. We would really like to have the 3-season room. We're gonna get a lot of use out of that 3-season room. Let's go for it.
I agree with Sandy. I think we need some options based on what I see.
But what I'm also saying is, I don't think we have a clear idea of what we can afford.
So, but I have a different perspective.
I'm saying we don't start with what we can afford.
It's not.
We don't start with that. That's backwards.
To me, it's bang for the buck. And having the absolute need scale, ADA upgrade, absolute need. There's no question it's a need. And from that need, at the other end of the spectrum, you have wants, kind of nice to haves. And where in that line do we draw this? And this plan to me it has nice to haves. It would be nice to have, but is the cost worth it? And that's what I want to really understand. That's why I'm a little bit focused on the third floor and fitting out that space as public space and offices as opposed to storage, for example. And understanding with some value engineering whether we could solve the storage need that way and better utilize the space and save $1 million.
So what happens though is if you eliminate the second, because it was the opening of the second floor that really trips all of the other design considerations. Because without the availability of the second floor, there is no community room, period. It just doesn't exist because the building department is either staying down there or the administration is going down there, but there's no community room down there.
No,
So you can't, if you lose the second floor, everything else changes.
I disagree because on this first floor's design is flex office, big conference room. And that's valuable real estate on the first floor. And is that the best use of that space relative to opening the?
So I guess I've been much closer to this process, but I really feel like they started with a well orchestrated needs analysis, discovered there's been a lot of pent up need, and we came to a very elegant design. And to me, it just seems, it just seems like we got to do this to get to our city to the 21st century
I think the other
and
thing to
beyond.
think about is this is a 50-year project, like
Exactly.
whatever, right? Like this is something where in 50 years, is it gonna matter whether we spent $8 million or $6 million or $10 million? Truly, right?
I know, but
That's-
whenever you build a house, you say, well,
Oh,
might as well,
right, right.
might as well. And some of the house costs is,
I get it, but I think you have to sort of balance those two perspectives.
And the other thing is, if we don't do anything, and we do this in 5 years, it's gonna cost $2 million.
I don't think that's enough. Then we gotta do something.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, my question though, and I'm not the architect, so if we leave the current design, but cut down the size of council chambers and cut down the size of the multi-purpose room to what Mr. LeMay would believe, I don't know, we'd have to figure out how much money that actually saves us. Because it really,
well, I think that's one. The other is, what I've been talking about is the third floor, and how much that would save us if we could reconfigure and satisfy 80% of the wants or needs and not open that. If there's a way to do that, that would be a big cost savings too.
Why don't we leave it to the architect to come up with cost reduction ideas? It's hard for us.
If I may, I think that's exactly, this is a totally normal part of the process. This is a totally normal conversation at this point in the process. And that's what the design development phase is. I mentioned earlier about we've just budgeted the design, now we're gonna design to the budget. That's exactly what the design development phase of the project will do, is it will get us to the point where we've actually reconciled all this and we end up with the design that you're actually gonna do, that has met all your needs, that we're convinced, to Councilor Bryce's point, that this is gonna not just meet your needs today, but for the next several decades beyond. And before we make construction documents, before we bid it, that's when we get them, that's how we do that. So we've, I think, done, if I may, the right thing to get to this point. The needs analysis, and maybe to your point, some of those needs could be considered wants. But we have we spent a lot of time and had a lot of conversations about that. And so the difference between the need and the want is of course debated. So I think, and as we mentioned, there's a lot of contingency in this money. There's, I'm convinced that we can deliver and meet most of your needs for this budget or less. But we had always planned and knew that we were going to continue to work with this. And even if it meant reducing the size of something or changing the way that we're looking at it, but at least now we have a benchmark from which to work through that next step of the process. And that's really well. Like I said, it's very normal.
So what is the next step then?
Well, I think the next step is there's a couple. I heard some of the questions and the things that you would want us to look at next in design development, which we're happy to look at all those things and go back to the estimate, go back to the estimate and put, like I can't tell you today what it would cost to take that multi-purpose room out from under it, but we could create a plan and we could put an alternate together for what that would be used. That's one of the several examples. So
I guess one more time, just being creative about whether there's a less costly use of the third floor is one of the things I'd like you to just think about. And maybe it's not there, but if you look at where everything is and where the storage space is there a concept there? And you say, well, okay, that saves us $3 million or $2 million because of all. So that's one of the things I'd like you to think about.
Open-minded to all this.
So I'm a little confused. How do we get to a place where we could have a slide and it said, hey, this design is 9.5. Design B is X million. And I don't know if it's C, but I'm making it up. What's the steps we would have to approve for you to do?
Well, I think we would have to come up with what is that list of things to explore and look at. And then we would need to take several weeks or a month or so to really dig through those things, do these alternate alternate plans, alternate diaries, and estimate things. And again, that's what we would expect to do in design development. It's very rare that we get to this point where like, here it is, here's the cost, and everybody's like, cool, let's go. It doesn't always work that way. It rarely works that way.
Could you just clarify, the schematic design is this?
Yes.
And how is that different than what you're saying, design development?
Well, because now that basically takes this design and it turns it into what you can do for your budget. So now we would be designing you to the budget. You would tell me, and I don't know whether you sitting here, it sounds like you don't know that, but and to the mayor's like, at some level, what's the difference between $8 and $9 million when you're talking about something that is going to be serving needs for 30, 40 years? Easy for me to say because it's not my money. So it's about value at that point. I don't think that we have anything in here in particular that's superfluous, that's like we don't need. And I feel like we've responded to everything everybody's asked of us to do. But that doesn't mean that you can't now say, well, maybe we can't afford to do that. And I think you have to figure out, what do you have the appetite for?
Well,
And what
I
in
think-
here and what of these needs, I think it's another assessment of, okay, now you have the program, you have the needs, it's well documented. To your point, Mr. Renee, what are we calling a need that you think is a want that we shouldn't try to solve? That's not for me to say.
It's a policy decision, I agree.
Right, so along those lines, if Paul's gonna go out and do version B, you want him to design to a budget number and say, gee, can you get your estimator, if we do this and not do that, and he goes back to the estimator and they say, okay, now we're delivering a $7.5 million number. Is that a number?
No, I don't-
He's gotta have
I
some
don't-
direction, because, generally, this is, to me,
I
not
don't know that we can do
superfluous.
it.
There are choices that are now being made.
I don't know
And
that
the
we can
budget
do it
number
to a
seems to
number,
be the
because
place to go.
we can't do it to a number, because we don't know what we can or can't afford.
I think it really
I don't
comes
think
down
that's the
to,
right way to go.
I agree. I
You
think
could
that's fair.
debate whether hey, maybe we don't need as big a council chamber. Maybe we don't need the multi-purpose room. I could see where you might do it that way. What does it save us not to have the multi-purpose room? What does it save us to have half the size of the council chamber?
that's the.
What does it save us to never put any offices on the second floor? We could do that, but the truth is, we're actually not constrained by money.
I think what
believe.
you just described as to how to pare it down makes more sense to me. Does that make more sense to you?
Yeah, the way that I would interpret that is what I said before, is you need to tell me, what do we think is a need that you think is only a want? What does this plan include that you think you don't need?
Who's gonna
That's
tell you?
where we have to start.
Well, it sounds like
Otherwise-
Mr. Lemay is saying the second
Otherwise, we're
Well-
just throwing darts.
What I want to say, and this is by process of iteration, I think what you're saying, because no one signs your first plan, or rarely signs your first plan.
It does happen.
And it's a bit amorphous for me, but I would like to go through and will you send this out?
Yes.
Just so we all have it.
Yeah.
I would like to just go through it in more detail and look at how all the space is used. Like the big conference room that's supposed to be here, and the flex space over there. To me, those are things that are nice to have. Do you have to have a big conference room in addition to having all these other things? It's just in my head, moving some puzzle pieces around could yield 80% of the, in my head, at least 80% of the, what we really want, and still save a lot of money. But I didn't have this, so I need to kind of look at all that and think about that some more. But in my mind, from an iteration standpoint, it's thinking through those kind of things and saying, okay, well, if we could do this, this, and this, what would be the result of that with the same money?
All right, let me just say, we definitely need a large conference room. I can't tell you how many meetings we have in our conference room where I stand against the wall because there's nowhere to people even sit.
So one person's need is going to be another person's want, and vice versa. This is going to be very, very subjective. You're right. You, Mr. Lemay, say we don't need a large conference room. Earlier, I had a conversation with Sandeep, and he was excited that he was now gonna have a meeting room for his committee on the first floor. So,
Does that need to be on the first floor is the question? Or could it be downstairs?
All right, but at some point, we're, like I said before, you eliminate upstairs, you're now flipping it back, you've eliminated the community.
I want to go back to the upstairs for a
I
second.
don't think so.
We're using the upstairs for storage, and we felt that that was valuable space, and that storage was a poor use of that valuable space. Now, in the new, this is one of the things that we need to think about. Now, in the new building, we have a lot of storage space, still in a valuable building.
well,
We talked about storing some of this stuff outside, but as Jim said, digitizing it and just getting rid of it. I think we need to think about that too, and not create a lot of storage space here. I think Peter will tell you that you probably need, 3 or 4 file cabinets for a couple of years worth of financial records.
I think.
Not historical records, but the ones that you're using for your operations right now.
I'd agree with a lot of that. I'm not, and I think I've talked to Paul about this. I'm not big on storage space. I hate pack ratting. I've moved 18 times, and I know. And I always, I'm slimming down all the time, and we need to digitize. We need to get out in the storage business. I'm not the lawyer, so I have no clue what we have to keep or how long we have to keep it or what form we have to keep it.
The state tells
Well,
you.
we're gonna, but I'm just saying, I've always been on board with getting rid of storage space.
I think you'll find in the plans that there's far less storage space.
There
in the
is.
plans than we have
There
now.
is.
And the spaces that we're calling storage space now primarily are, I would regard as not even habitable spaces because there's no windows.
Right.
It's in the old part.
They're in the older part of the basement. That old vault.
So I think to your request, we're gonna send a condensed package where you'll be able to see all the floor plans and you can really move with that.
Yeah, I'd like this.
Yeah.
And then
For
I
sure.
just want to go
We'll
through
get that to you guys
for my
tomorrow.
head and say, okay, is this high value space that we're paying for? Is
No,
this
I
high
think
value
it's
space?
totally, these drawings, no one expects anyone to make decisions or to bless things or to come to conclusions about condemning something tonight. This was to show you, council, where this is. It'll go out electronically or probably, we could print it, I guess.
That'd be nice.
If that's what you like,
Yeah.
we'll deliver.
Sometimes it's easier for you to have.
I have these.
Oh, good, one paper.
I love printing. I'm an analog guy.
Do you have it on ledger size
Yeah,
paper?
I could do that right now for you. Who needs a copy?
Well, you're not gonna do it right now.
You will get it.
Maybe what's the-
Nice try.
Yeah, by the way, what becomes of the conference room that's downstairs in this new plan?
Well, it expands to become
It becomes a community.
And that's one of the reasons we're
That
already.
is the front end of the
That's-
community.
Is this a separate space though?
It is the space.
I mean, basically, it's under this, when the building gets torn down, I mean, we sort of have the advantage of the hole in the ground's already there for part of it.
They just have to go deeper.
Yeah, we gotta just get deeper to see it.
My gut is saying, Paul, and you and your firm already can figure this out. I mean, Mr. Lemay has got his ideas, which we can respect, of course. But I know, I'm positive you also have a version or two.
All we need to know is what in this plan don't you need? At the end of the day, if I could put it into a simple sentence, and then we would, then we rearrange things and see what.
But what if I ask you the question, what do you think we could do without? That would give us options. You don't have to answer right now.
I hate to say this, but I don't think there's really much of anything. And I think we've met all the needs. I think, that was part of the needs analysis.
And I think the important thing to remember is that we don't work in this building on a daily basis, right? Like, we can sort of guess at what the people who work here every day need, but we don't know that.
So, and just one other thing on the back to the 2 million versus 10 million. I understand the math, but this also scopes out the whole campus, and I don't want to lose the thought. And Paul, frankly, is the one who came up with, you have real circulation problems. I want to fix the whole campus.
Just to your point, I love what you've done on the campus circulation. I'm all in on that. I thought that was a clever and kind of, you figured out a need that we didn't know we had. You really did, so I'm all good with that.
All right, let me add one more thing, just to remind council, with all due respect, this redesign is only this much about you, city council. This redesign is about the staff and people who work in the city every day, full days. It's really not about the folks who visit here or work here a couple nights a month.
But in this,
That's what that design is playing to. The working people were here every day. And so when we go slashing things, keep in mind, what we're slashing is the workspaces of how our employees are functioning. And that is what a lot of this design is playing to, making them more efficient, making our building department more efficient as how it interacts with the public and our employees. So I just don't want to lose sight of that. This really isn't about how big is the city council space.
but you need to keep that in perspective. That's 6 employees who work in this building. We're here constantly, every day, right? 6, 7 employees, I can't.
Yeah, but I don't give short shrift because their numbers are X, Y, and Z. They're operating this $30 million project every day of the week, and there are people from the building service department coming in here and working. There are people who are working here. No, this is not IBM. We don't have 100,000 employees working here, obviously. But the people who are working here, they deserve, frankly, quality working spaces to be in.
The number of people here working here, the number of people that visit dictate the amount of space you need. If you had 10 people,
Well, I don't see a lot
you
of
need more
wasted
than-
space. I don't see much in the way of wasted space. Some of it's anticipatory, some of it's, as was described with the room downstairs. I think there is a build it and they will come quality, just as we saw with the Gates Mills Trail, that, no one's gonna use it. And it's like, the asphalt wasn't dry before people were walking on the thing. I think there is absolutely pent-up need in this community for better municipal space that they want to utilize. I see people backed up in front of that building department desk, and Tara's, a one-armed paper hanger trying to service everybody who's standing in front of her, on any given morning. This is a busy place. This isn't a, Mayberry that no one's ever showing up.
I don't mean to suggest it is, but is moving Tara upstairs going to change that again?
It's going to change it for the public that interacts with them, yeah, it will.
And the question is, to me, is again, bang for the buck. Are we optimizing?
Now we're into the subtract. That's about it. I think it's a better utilization and presentation of the most visited department of the city. Yeah, I do think that. But, that's for greater minds than me ultimately to decide, because I don't get to vote. So.
And don't lose sight, Mr. Lemay, of the gutting of the 1950s, 1970s, 1990s, different versions of the HVAC system that doesn't work properly ever. I mean, that's a big cost of the project. I'm not gonna, blow smoke, but it's very expensive to do this whole facility. And, the geothermal, I think, is about 300.
Well, it's a premium.
It's a premium of 300 over, but the payback is around 10 years.
Just to that point, Paul, have they done the test borings to see if it's viable? No.
But I should tell you that we did it right across the highway at the People's Rocky School, same geology as the other here. So I'm very confident it's going to be.
That was indicative of.
Yes, we did a geothermal system for that whole school, which was great.
So, and the planners are telling us the payback is around 10 years for that, which is really good.
I will tell you, there's a 10-year payback in the world of investing, and building property planning equipment is not good.
It's a great return.
I think
It's
for
not.
Public buildings is a great return.
This building's gonna be here in 20 years. It's gonna be here in 30 years.
And that's based on current energy costs. And the only thing they're gonna do is go up. 10 years for a public-facing building is a great return.
I don't think we've gotta go down these rabbit
No,
holes.
All right, all right, listen, we're gonna move on from this at this point.
All right, we'll get you all this information tomorrow. You can study it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Jonathan, good to see you.
Oh, we're done for tonight, right?
Yeah. All right, now we're gonna move to item number 6.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Listen, we got a lot to plow through, so tonight we're in an executive session at the end.
There, one too many times, so you're not gonna do it again.
All right.
So shut your
Look.
pie hole.
Hey, all right, take your side, hey, Colonel, Tony, keep the sidebar active. We're now moving on to item number 6, ordinance 2026-24. This regards compensation of the public safety director. I'm gonna flip it to the vice mayor as I lead this discussion.
Okay, nothing in the basic, the language of the amendment or the ordinance has changed. Everybody has seen the survey table that Mr. Schmidt sent out with the earnings, the median earnings, so I'm gonna turn it over to him to explain the table that he sent out.
Well, yeah, so we had discussed basing the salary on what would be important to a Pepper Pike resident that might choose to be a candidate for mayor. And one of the measures that we talked about that was average or median earnings. And so I found that this is a census table. As it's labeled, it's earnings for a 12-month period in 2024 dollars, and it shows very explicitly for members of the population that are 25 years and over, their earnings, the median number, 127,941. So, I could see something comparable to that as being a suggestion for the salary. And that fits in line with some readings I've done. There was a resident that took a lot of interest in this. I think the resident wants to be somewhat anonymous on this, but they shared information with me, and I found an analysis that was done in the city of Portland. And but one of the things that they talked about in their analysis was basing, I'm sorry, I gotta look at this term that they used, basing the salary on a, shoot, give me a second. I'll get it teed up.
Sure.
Yeah, I just got to stretch. It's an old app. See, this is.
Oh, now I can't even find my shirt, but basically, they were doing, they were basing their salaries on what they considered to be livable wages for people in their area. And we're trying to increase.
Portland, Oregon?
Yeah. Increase the number of candidates that they have for positions. That's my spiel.
All right.
Can I ask a quick question? I've been staring at this. What is the difference between the green and the yellow box?
Yeah,
As
so.
far as I can tell, is the difference, the one is population 25 and older, because that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yes, I do think that the issue. It's not our data. It's like, it's.
Oh, I know.
BLS.
I know what the difference is. The green one is full-time year round.
Okay.
And the other one, you'll see
Oh,
the
it's
numbers
just
getting
any-
diluted because it could be
employment.
part-time
Okay.
people.
Thank you.
And yes, and so.
Next question here. Good question. Is the primary question with this exercise, how do we attract more candidates in the future?
I think that's a secondary question. The primary question is what is the proper salary for the mayor to include the safety director position, with the intent, as we've talked about next year, of eliminating the safety director position, is paying the salary of the mayor that the mayor deserves. So, and what we kind of hit on is this the right metric? Is median income of a Pepper Pike resident the right number to pay the mayor? And that's kind of driven our discussion, because we can't, searching for some other data is so far been fruitless. We're all over the map. And I think Eric thinks, I think Alyssa thinks, I think I don't want to speak for her, but she's the one who came up with the idea of the median income. And I nodded and agreed with it. I think that is a good metric. And what it does, it does a number of things. It pays the mayor what we think he should pay, but it also does attract that person to go, hey, you know, I really want to serve my community, but I can't afford to leave my job to run for mayor, but I think I'd be a really good mayor. That's a secondary question. This is just, what do we think is the right salary for the CEO of the city?
Yeah, okay.
So the metric, I was searching, and then when Alyssa came up with the thought, well, I think it should be median income. I'm like, you know what, that really makes kind of sense to me. And that's where Alyssa was like, where did Eric come up with the number? And so Eric went and did some more research and found that number, and that's how we came up with, I think we said 130 last time seemed to be a good number, and now we're in a range of 127 to 146. So that's in the ballpark. So I think what we need to do tonight, this is the second reading. We're not going to try and suspend. We're going to have discussion tonight, and then we'll discuss and come up with a solution and vote on it next week.
The term I was looking for was thriving wage, by the way.
Thriving wage.
Thriving wage.
I'm really concerned about this methodology. I think it leads to some unintended consequences as a result as I think about it, because you're now completely disassociating the job responsibilities, the duties, the workload of the position from the compensation for that position. So those two are now completely independent. And
how are we doing that?
Well, because you're not saying, you're not associating, you're not saying this job with this workload. By not doing a market survey kind of analysis. Well, let me give you an example. So if city resident income went down 1 year, would that mean that the next time we could do it, the mayor's pay should go down, even though the job is exactly the same?
Well, that's for us to decide.
Well, but I understand, but that to me, that illustrates that this is not a good metric.
What
To
is
do
a
this
good
because,
metric? We've kicked around and we're all over the place.
well, we're not all over, it's my perspective, we're not all over the place, because I think how these jobs, compensation system for every job I've ever priced out, and there's a lot of them, is you start with as a baseline, what does comparative positions pay? And we have some of that data, not all of that data. And then you adjust for your particular circumstances. That's how it's typically done. And that accomplishes what is a competitive rate of pay. And also it's particularized to the position. But if you try and take this as a compensation principle, let's just take a couple of examples I thought about. So if you took this metric to Hunting Valley, where there's 800 residents, And undoubtedly, the mayor's job is a smaller job than our mayor. But because the median income is much higher than Hunting Valley, you would say that mayor gets even more money. Let me finish, please. So that's one example of that. But then take it the other way, toward the city of Cleveland, for example. So city of Cleveland has 380,000 residents, has 7,000 employees, has a operating budget in the millions, but yet their median income is a lot lower than here in Pepper Park. We just say, well, that mayor's services aren't as valuable, we're gonna tie it to, that logic just doesn't make sense for me. It's worse than arbitrary because it has outcomes on compensation inverse to the level of the job responsibilities. Obviously, the mayor of Cleveland has a really hard, complex job with 7,000 employees and all the issues we have there. So to me, that is, it's kind of worse than arbitrary in my mind. And obviously, a very kind of inequitable result compared to Hunting Valley, much smaller job getting more, and then
So
the mayor, let me finish, please. Can I just finish?
It just feels like
Can I
you're repeating
finish?
yourself.
Can I finish? Stop. Who's going? So that, I mean, if it's not a metric that's a principle we can apply, then it just, to me, it's disassociating, colonels make more than corporals, right? And why is that? Because colonels have a lot bigger job. And if you looked at the survey data, you would generally find that bigger cities, there's a trend, smaller cities pay less and bigger cities pay more. And that's what the data would show. There'd be outliers, sure, up and down, but having, in my mind, we have a chunk of the survey data, we don't have complete survey data. Looking at that and seeing where that lays out, because that's showing dozens of other comparable cities have reached this conclusion from a competitive pay level, given that it's public service and taking all that into account, and then adjusting for your circumstances just seems a more rational way to come up with the right answer.
So to answer that, the Hunting Valley to Cleveland, I don't care what they pay. I think we've come up with a decent metric. I didn't disagree, that's fine. But I think we'll keep pressing, but I think what we need to do is come up with a number and we'll vote on it next week.
But this metric implies that in lower income cities, the mayor would be less valuable, and in higher income cities, the mayor would be more valuable, which just obviously makes no sense because between the big cities and the small cities, the responsibilities for the big cities are much broader.
Well,
I just struggle with this as the metric divorced from what the actual responsibilities
So, but I
are.
would also tell you that, argue that what we saw from the metrics are all over the place, right? So, the pay of the mayor of Detroit versus the pay of the mayor of Highland Heights versus property values. I mean, there's 100 ways that we can cut this, and it's a problem. And actually, we're seeing this with the school district, telling us they need 5 mills, but their mills are already here, and South Utica Lyndhurst mills are 4 times, but our property values are 4 times. So there's so many different ways we can cut this metric. I just choose to use this one for me, that I think is good. And one last thing, Jim. So if you really wanted to figure it out, you go, okay, what does a city manager make? Because it's really more back to how you recruited people. The city manager pay is really based on the size of the organization. You go to certain cities in California or other places, city managers making $450. Here, just my experience, we would have to pay a city manager about $150. So that's why I'm comfortable with saying okay, maybe $130 with the median salary.
The difference between that, though, is that's a private employee who can be fired immediately if they don't do a good job. It's not a public service elected position. So I don't think those two can be looked at comparably relative to an elected official who runs for public reasons of public service and not just a paycheck. And that's kind of all we've been around here. I'm here for public service. I'm not here for money. need to be compensated, and I think the mayor should have a pay raise. I'm for that, but I just want a reliable, data-driven, and there are outliers, sure.
Yeah, they're all over.
No, but we can find a data set, because it's done every day, comparing comparable cities, and that would drive an answer. Then we adjust that for our particular circumstances. That would give me more comfort that we have a really data-driven metric that's typically used for this, provides competitive pay, and it's not based on this year's income of our residents. That could go up, that could go down, and that doesn't mean the mayor's job's any different because resident income went up.
So, comparative information could be interesting, but I did find something else in this report from Portland that I liked, and that they said, to attract a variety of qualified candidates, salary should reflect the personal opportunity and financial costs involved in serving our community. For very practical reasons, salaries should not be a barrier to attracting a diverse slate of candidates with the talents, skills, and experiences we would find most valuable. So this is why I'm careful about when we're going into comparatives, how do we control all the parameters so that we get to something that's meaningful for our community, because we want to attract qualified candidates.
That's why there's always two steps in the processes. One is the comparative data, and then you particularize it for the job that you're looking at.
I think there's, piggyback on that, right? That market comparison is just one data point. You can only get so far with that. If we were truly compensation analysts and trying to figure out this number, outside of that goal, right? Just for the role itself, you'd have to look at this research, right? How many staff members does the mayor oversee? What's the scope of authority and decision making? What's the detailed time commitment, job responsibilities? You add all that up, and then you come up with a number there and a number there, and you put them together.
Now you're doing a city manager analysis.
That's exactly right.
But so we have had comparative information, and yes, the comment about city manager, we don't want to create a city manager position here. The mayor is CEO. He's not the chief operating officer. He's the CEO. How do you usually compensate and measure a CEO? It's actually on a much more strategic objectives than you might put in a job description.
I'm just saying we should be clear then that our goal, if we're gonna pick this number, 128K, is for future candidates. That's the primary goal.
I would say that's the secondary goal. The current goal is to get, because we're not paying the mayor, we're gonna pay the safety director. Because we know, and we know what that game is. And we don't like it. Nobody likes the game. So that's why the intent is next spring is to fix it and do it the right way. But that is a goal. That's not the primary. The primary goal is to compensate the current CEO who hasn't had a raise since 2019. But that's a secondary goal, and then the next is to actually fix it and quit playing games with the safety director's salary and actually compensate the mayor for what the mayor should be getting paid. So
I know, in my head, there are two different exercises. You get to two different numbers.
I understand that. Yeah. So I think we'll have a full, Alyssa will be back next week. We'll have a full 7 members. So let's finish discussion on this one tonight. This is the second reading. We'll go third reading with the intention of voting next week. So I think, Mr. Byron, has anybody got any changes to the ordinance other than what the compensation number would be? Okay, so the ordinance remains the same. We just have to fill in the compensation number for the safety director, and we'll figure that out next week to debate and then vote on it.
Very good. So as of now, the target total would be the yellow number?
there is no target total. We discussed 130 last time. Alyssa said to Eric, well, where did you get that? So that was the only number that we've ever discussed with this current metric, how we're doing it. If you want to put a number out next week, we can talk about that. What we'll do is we'll take the number from the floor and discuss it and vote on it.
But we did talk about how we wanted to be able to substantiate the number.
Right.
And that's why I brought this table.
Right.
Because I could come up with a rounding of 130.
Because I think if table it now, but if really that is the future goal,
Yeah.
I mean, that number might even be higher.
Then we can talk about that next week. So what we'll do is we'll debate the number next week and we'll vote on it. Okay.
You return the gavel to me, sir?
Back to you, sir.
We are moving on to docket number 7, ordinance 25. This authorizes the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with our service department, ASHLE. And it's on for first reading tonight. I would encourage there be a suspension and that we vote for. I can fill council as to what this is in our negotiations with fire and the police department. An additional floating holiday denominated as June was added to their contracts. The service department had already settled its agreement, so to even the score and make it appropriate that the service department has the same holiday availability as the rest of the city, we need, Mr. Byron informs us, we need council approval because this is a council approved contract.
You're reopening the contract that was
We're
already.
amending the contract to add that clause to give service to
So
floating
it's
holidays.
8 more hours of holiday time to, how many people are in the service department union or there? 17?
17. All right,
So
yes,
that was negotiated in the police contract and the fire contract, but
Yeah.
not in the.
it did not come up in the service negotiations. They settled first.
Oh.
And it wasn't part of the conversation at that point. And became part of it. And
So it's a matter of fairness.
that's how it's a matter of fairness in this.
I'll move to suspend.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Mr. Moby,
Yes.
Ms. Bowden, yes, Mr. Lemay,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile, Earl Rice.
Yes.
And a motion to adopt ordinance 25, please.
So move.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Mr. Moby,
Yes.
Ms. Bowden, yes, Mr. Lemay,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile, Earl Rice.
Yep.
Move on to resolution 26, item number 8. This is for to certify our delinquent nuisance abatement charges. It's an annual thing that we do. Peter, you have anything to add to this?
No, not unless there's any questions.
Sorry, so what is this?
This is a resolution,
Yeah,
so we
but
don't.
what are the mechanics of
What,
this?
what happens is if there's a failure of someone to cut grass or something like that, and we have to do it, John could add to that, but this is the ability of the village, the city to levy that cost on the taxes, on the property taxes
perfect.
of the properties, and it's something that is adopted every year.
Thank you.
So this is a resolution, we don't.
Yes,
That's
this is a
first
resolution.
reading,
You don't
we
have
don't-
to suspend.
No,
It's actually not a first reading. This
All right.
is no.
Just a
well,
motion.
this-
We need a
Carry
motion to
forward.
adopt
So moved.
resolution.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Mr. Moby,
Yes.
Ms. Bowden, yes, Mr. Lemay,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile, Earl Rice.
Yeah.
Resolution 2026-27, again, a misnomer regarding the first reading. It's a resolution. This is for the county fiscal officer to advance taxes. Mr. Rentator, anything to comment on?
This just allows us to get our property tax as it's collected as opposed to just when the settlement hits. We've had some discussion with the finance committee, the county's has some kind of policy they're tossing around, and they're not going to give us advances. But I think they've shelved that out with their resolution that that's going to be, but we want to have this in place so that we can get the money from them and invest it as soon as we can. And make money out of it.
So if we have a motion to, second, roll call please.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Mogi?
Yes.
Ms. Godet?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Lemay? Mr.
sorry.
Gentili?
Yes.
Colonel Rice?
Yes.
All right, we're all in favor of getting the money. Good. Resolution 28, this regards the establishment of a new business credit card with Dollar Bank. Mr. Rickator? Okay.
So we've been working with Dollar Bank to move over our, basically all of our financial sort of investments with Dollar Bank. One of the things that they have is a credit card that we use for our employees if they go on a trip somewhere. If we purchase something, we use our card. A lot of the cards today, they give rebates. So our card with Chase Merchant Services does give a rebate, but the rebate, once you have to spend so much that we never get to that number to spend so much to get any rebate, Dollar Bank's going to give us a rebate from the first dollar. I really like Dollar Bank. This is one of the reasons why I really like Dollar Bank. And, we're also talking about moving over our credit card machine so that somebody comes in and they charge a certain amount to the city, then, it's going to be through Dollar Bank as opposed to Chase. So those are the last couple facets of like the whole operation getting turned over from Chase to something else. We kind of looked at it and, should we do this, shouldn't we? And, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this part.
So as part of that, are we encouraging everybody to use the credit card to pay more bills?
When we can, we like to. If we're going to get a rebate, we are going to get a rebate. It's not going to be a huge sum of money, but something's better than nothing, and we were getting nothing before.
Yeah.
We have a
Percent
motion.
and quarters the rebate.
We have a motion for the adoption of 28.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Mogi?
Yes.
Ms. Godet? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Colonel Rice?
Yes.
And finally, the final Dollar Bank agreement for this evening, item number 11. This is regarding authorizing the agreement for merchant services with Dollar Bank.
And I did mention this in the last section. This is when people come in and they want to charge something to the city. We're going to switch it over to Dollar Bank, and if we decide to use their authorized processor deluxe, or just do it straight through Dollar Bank, which we're probably going to do that. But this gives us the flexibility to do either of those items.
Any questions? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Mogi?
Yes.
Ms. Godet? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Colonel Rice?
Yes.
Okay, I guess we have a second round of audience comments this evening on the agenda. Any audience comments?
Hi, Grace Barber, 33,000 Shaker Boulevard. I'm wondering if there's any thought, since the needs assessment has been done by the previous architectural firm,
I couldn't hear you.
if the needs assessment that has been conducted by Paul Deutsch and his firm, if you would consider looking at another architectural firm. I know Jim LeMay and Scott Newell had the architect come in at no cost to the city, and they were the original ones that thought about bringing up the driveway for handicap accessibility. Maybe that architect could help in some of the cost cutting, because he was more creative at that point, and charge nothing to the city, where Paul Deutsch had already incurred $40,000 without council or council's input. might be something like that.
We have not engaged that, and just for the record, there was considerable council input to the work of Mr.
Original
Deutsch.
40,000.
It's been at the infrastructure level as well as prior presentations of Mr. Deutsch here. Any other audience comments, please? Yes.
I'm Peg Warner, 29300 Sugar Bowl. I just want to say I'm not against a pay raise for a mayor position. If it puts a salary comparable to other cities similar to Pike, excuse me. If the raise is given, I feel it should be an effective date now or forward, not back. Councilmember Modi has suggested a third-party look, and I was surprised that council turned that down. Why? Because people didn't know what the cost was going to be. Tampa Pike has the money, and it's there to do what certain members want. Mayor Bain, you stated at an earlier meeting that you have taken on much more responsibilities over the years without a raise. Maybe it's time the city hires somebody else to come in and help with some of those jobs that you are trying to handle and balance everything to give you more time. It shouldn't take a long time to train somebody for documentation, papers are all set. Again, it's a money factor. And again, people think has the money just because he wants to spend it and for what. Thank you.
Yes.
I would also like to comment about ordinance 2026-24. I think that it has not been
You have to
considered.
say your name.
Sorry, Benjamin Grossman Poneman over on 28325 Belcourt Road. Sorry, so I think that council has not considered the fact that there are 4 new members of council who came into office just in January. Those 4 members of council were supported vociferously through their election campaigns by Mayor Bain. And therefore, any efforts by those members of council to increase compensation, not to the position of mayor, but to Mayor Bain, would amount to quid pro quo. And that's something that should very strongly be considered. A, you could make all compensation changes be effective after the next election cycle. So if Mayor Bain gets reelected, he could benefit from that. Or you can abstain from any sort of voting on that matter to preserve any sort of ethical considerations of our council. Thank you.
May I ask a question? In what way do you think that those new council members were supported?
Mayor Bain engaged in fundraising, mailers, and public statements in favor of those council members' elections. You cannot argue that the mayor did not support your candidacy and that support was not present and broadcast throughout the community. Whether that mattered in terms of your election, I cannot say. That being said, he did support you. You were elected. 8 months later, a discussion comes out about increasing not the pay of mayor, but the pay of Mayor Bain.
I know that I was never supported financially.
I don't care about financial support.
For
That's
financial
that is not the point.
Okay.
The point is that he did support your candidacy. Anyway,
Thank you
think
for your comments.
yes.
We're not going to debate.
That I
Thank you
know,
very
I
much for your comments. Any other audience comments? Hearing none, we'll move on. We have talked about a lot of the things that I would otherwise comment on. I do want to again applaud our safety forces for their marvelous performance over the last month in some very dangerous situations, and for dangerous, not challenging situations, dealing with activity circumstances that occurred here in the city. So again, thank you to the Hillcrest folks for taking the time this evening to recognize the efforts of our police and fire departments. I want to again thank the service department for the wonderful work that they perform. Particularly, I want to thank Rachel Garrett for her marvelous organization and planning of the Party in the Park, which is, I know many of you missed that, was just terrific. A lot of fun for a big turnout of residents who came out to that. We had a great ice cream social last weekend. We were slammed. It was probably, despite the rain, a larger turnout than we've even seen before. So people are enthusiastic about these events. If you haven't been on the Gates Mills Trail yet, you should go enjoy those new benches if you get tired walking along the way. The second phase, as Mr. Sheehy noted earlier, is not completed, and no one should be discouraged that it does not look the same as phase one at this point. There's still landscaping to be put in, there's the stonework, the mounding, wildflowers still have to be planted that will come up seasonally in the future. So there's still a lot of work to be done. I did speak had a call since we were last together from First Energy regarding power outages, surges that have been a problem, particularly in the southeast quadrant of the city, Pine Tree, going up to Creekside, that area. They have achieved some significant, what they hope is resolution of the problem. They did a lot of work on that. They had their engineers doing it. They finally traced three significant problems. One was a bad splice that existed somewhere in one of the overhead wires, and they resolved that. There was a problem with equipment located at a Chagrin, it was in Moreland Hills, Chagrin, some sort of waste treatment plant down there. I don't know what it is. Chagrin Falls, is a treatment plant down there? Yeah, there was some treatment plant down there that had some equipment issues that was reflecting back up the circuit. And perhaps most importantly, they also did some significant tree trimming in Moreland Hills. The main circuit that was affecting Pepper Pike originates down deeper into Moreland Hills. And they trimmed a lot of trees in Moreland Hills that they said were interfering with the wire. And if you are not familiar with the way that the system is set up, there is a series of circuit breakers, so that if the wire is shorted through wind activity, a branch hitting the wire or whatever, shorting between the power lines, the breaker will trip on and then restore itself momentarily. But that causes the power to go out and then it surges back out. And they are hopeful that that has resolved through their tree trimming efforts. So we'll see. But that should explain a lot of the voltage surges that people have been monitoring in their homes. I will be getting out an announcement to the city regarding the availability of the benches for their sponsorship. And that should go out, I hope, in the next several days. I'll be able to get that out now that the benches are in place and people can see what they are. And that's what I have. Council, any comments?
I have one. Hey, we already kudoed the police and fire tonight, but I got to kudo the fire department again. About 3.5 weeks ago, one of our residents on Lander, Colonel Rick Pearl, U.S. Army retired, Army helicopter pilot in Vietnam, went to medical school, did 30 years in the Army and finished up as a doctor. Then he went and did trauma training, and he had a bad fall and hurt his neck and was paralyzed. And he did a lot of trauma training of first responders in Toronto and Peoria and his follow-on jobs. So you never know who you're going to pick up. And I went visiting the rehab the other day, and he said, "What a fantastic job these guys did." He was fully paralyzed from the neck down, and now he's moving his arms, he's moving his toes.
He said because their timely work on the paramedics, and they got him right to Hillcrest, and he was in surgery within 2 hours of leaving the spine. So more kudos to the fire department. You picked up a guy who knows what he's talking about, and he had nothing but great praise for how you guys worked.
Thank you. Yeah, and I want to thank you, Colonel, and I want to emphasize, it's wonderful that the Hillcrest team recognized the unusual and extraordinary work done by 2 police officers. They were part of the EMS team, obviously, who came in and then picked up the transfer and got this young lady to Hillcrest immediately. And that these officers were recognized for an unusual circumstance. Our fire EMS squad on a weekly basis saves lives and gets out there helping people, and that's never forgotten. And simply because they don't get a medal every week doesn't mean that they are not appreciated and that that's going on. So please extend our forever thanks to your men, Chief. And I think perhaps in a separate ceremony, in fact, in the future, there's going to be a ceremony for your EMS officers regarding some of the work that they've done in the recent past also. So congratulations to them. Anyone else on council? We would then entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing the acquisition and or disposition of municipal property.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Moody?
Yes.
Ms. Godich? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Colonel Wright?
Yes.
All right. There will be no action taken following the executive session, so the public should feel free to
No.